The sun dips low, painting the vast African savannah in broad, sweeping strokes of crushed violet, burnt orange, and the soft, dusty gold of twilight. The intense heat of the afternoon slowly lifts, replaced by a gentle, cooling breeze that rustles the dry, silvery leaves of the acacia trees. The earth itself seems to exhale, releasing the warmth of the day into the gathering dusk. And then there is a sound. It is not quite a sound you hear with your ears, but rather a profound rhythmic vibration you feel in the soles of your feet and the very center of your chest. A slow, deliberate rumble shifting through the ground beneath you. Through the tall, swaying grass, a shadow emerges. It is vast and majestic, moving with an impossible, silent grace. A herd of elephants is walking toward the horizon, their massive silhouettes cutting a peaceful, steady line against the fading sky. As you watch them move, a deep sense of stillness washes over you. There is no rush here. The world operates on a slower, deeper clock, paced by the steady, unhurried heartbeat of these gentle giants. As we journey alongside them tonight, exploring the quiet wonders of their existence, allow yourself to sink into that same unhurried rhythm. You do not need to try to remember anything you hear. There is no test waiting for you at the dawn, no obligation to hold on to these truths. Let the mind soften. Let the ideas drift through your awareness like the evening breeze moving through the high canopy. What stays, stays. What drifts away, drifts away. Your only task is to simply be here, to listen and to rest. Let the weight of the day slip from your shoulders, much like the fine, cool dust slipping from the rough, beautiful folds of an elephant's skin. As the night deepens, we will walk with them, guided only by the slow, steady procession of their ancient wisdom. As we follow the herd into the darkening landscape, the first remarkable truth about these magnificent creatures becomes apparent in the utter silence of their passing. An adult elephant can weigh up to 6 tons, a staggering mass of solid muscle, dense bone, and immense quiet power. Yet, as they step across the dry earth, over scattered twigs, brittle foliage, and uneven terrain, they make almost no sound at all. This silent, ghostly passage is made possible by the unique, hidden architecture of their feet. Beneath the heavy, pillar-like bones of their toes lies a thick, specialized cushion of fibroelastic tissue. This internal shock absorber functions much like a dense, highly responsive memory foam pillow, compressing and expanding with every single step. When the elephant places its foot down, the soft pad flattens out, spreading their enormous weight evenly across a wide, flat surface area to minimize pressure. When the foot is lifted, the pad instantly springs back into its original rounded shape. It is a brilliant biological marvel that allows a creature of such overwhelming size to move with the stealth and quiet grace of a passing shadow, leaving only shallow, circular impressions in the soft dust to prove they were ever there. That deep, quiet connection to the earth extends far beyond their silent footsteps. While they walk in quiet procession through the dimming light, the air and the ground around them are actually alive with conversation, though almost all of it remains entirely hidden from human ears. Elephants communicate using infrasound, a register of low-frequency vocalizations that plunge far beneath the lowest threshold of human hearing. These profound, vibrating rumbles are generated deep within their massive throats, echoing out into the world with such immense power that they can travel for many miles across the open plains and through dense forests. By speaking in these slow, deep frequencies, a mother can gently reassure her wandering calf from across a vast valley, or a wise matriarch can coordinate the movement of her entire extended family, even when they are scattered completely out of sight in the brush. It is a secret, invisible network of sound, binding the herd together through an unseen web of constant, affectionate murmuring, keeping them close even when they are far apart. The way they receive these distant, rumbling messages is perhaps even more wondrous than the way they send them. When a low-frequency rumble travels through the landscape, it moves not just through the heavy night air, but through the very bedrock of the Earth itself in the form of seismic waves. To listen to these subterranean whispers, an elephant will often stand perfectly still, closing their eyes and placing their weight firmly on their sensitive feet, sometimes resting the very tip of their long trunk lightly against the cool soil. Specialized nerve endings, incredibly sensitive to pressure and vibration, are heavily concentrated in the soles of their feet and the delicate tip of their trunk. These microscopic sensors detect the faintest tremors pulsing through the dirt. The elephant's dense leg bones then conduct these vibrations straight up into their skull and into their inner ear. They are quite literally listening to the earth itself, feeling the distant voices of their loved ones arriving through the ground beneath them, reading the soil like a vast vibrating map of their family. The trunk, which so delicately touches the ground to listen to the earth, is arguably the most extraordinary appendage in the natural world, a true masterpiece of evolutionary design. It is a seamless fusion of the upper lip and the nose, but that simple description does not begin to capture its magnificent complexity. An elephant's trunk contains absolutely no bones, yet it is composed of an estimated 40,000 individual muscles, all woven together in tight overlapping fascicles. To truly understand the sheer scale of this, consider that the entire human body contains only about 600 muscles in total. This astonishing density of muscle fibre grants the trunk an unparalleled combination of brute strength and exquisite delicate precision. With a single sweeping movement, an elephant can effortlessly wrap its trunk around a heavy, deeply anchored tree branch and tear it from the trunk. Yet, just a moment later, using the two highly sensitive finger-like projections at the very tip, it can reach down to the dusty earth and gently pluck a single, fragile blade of grass, or delicately wipe a speck of pollen from the sensitive, long-lashed eye of a sleeping newborn calf. This profound physical sensitivity is beautifully mirrored by an equally profound emotional depth. Elephants possess a vast capacity for empathy, a trait that shines brightest in their quietest moments of connection. They are one of the very few non-human species known to display clear, undeniable behaviours associated with deep mourning and grief. When an elephant comes across the bones of a deceased relative, or even the sun-bleached remains of a stranger of their own kind, they do not simply walk past. The entire herd will stop. A heavy, reverent silence falls over the group. With solemn focus, they use their incredibly sensitive trunks to gently trace the contours of the skull, the curve of the spine, and the smooth surface of the ivory tusks. They linger for hours in these quiet vigils, standing in a protective, quiet circle, gently touching the remains as their temporal glands sometimes weep a clear fluid. It is a poignant, deeply moving display of memory and honouring, proving beyond a doubt that their emotional landscape is just as vast, complex, and deeply felt as the endless physical landscapes they traverse. The depth of their internal emotional world is further illuminated by their rare and remarkable sense of self. Elephants belong to an elite, tiny circle of creatures, sharing space with the great apes, dolphins, and humans that possess true self-awareness. When presented with a large mirror in a wild reserve, an elephant does not react as though it is seeing a stranger, a rival, or a threat. Instead, after a brief period of slow, deliberate investigation, checking behind the glass and testing the reflection's movements, it recognizes that the image is its own. It will use the mirror to inspect parts of its massive body it could never otherwise see, turning its head to view the inside of its mouth or flapping its ears to see the folds of skin behind them. If a small, harmless mark is gently painted on an elephant's forehead while it rests, a place it cannot directly view, the elephant will stand before the mirror, see the mark in the reflection, and immediately reach up with its own trunk to touch its own forehead. This quiet, contemplative recognition requires a highly sophisticated level of consciousness, revealing a peaceful, observing mind that understands exactly who and what it is. This powerful, self-aware intelligence is heavily relied upon by the entire herd, entrusted primarily to the oldest and wisest female, the matriarch. An elephant herd is a deeply bonded matriarchal society, a family tied together by blood and shared experience, and their survival is anchored entirely in the memory of their leader. Because elephants can live for up to 70 years, a matriarch has spent decades quietly gathering a vast, intricate mental map of the surrounding world. During times of severe, punishing drought, when the rivers dry up into cracked mud and the savannah grass turns to pale dust, the younger, anxious elephants look entirely to her. Drawing upon memories forged perhaps 40 or 50 years prior, the matriarch remembers the exact location of ancient hidden water sources. She recalls the precise routes, the subtle, shifting landmarks, and the distant, shadowed valleys where rain might have fallen months ago. She guides her family with an unshakable, calm confidence across hundreds of miles of barren land, her immense living memory serving as the vital, beating heart of the entire herd. When the matriarch finally leads them to a dry, seemingly lifeless riverbed, her ancient knowledge continues to sustain them. Where other, smaller animals see only a harsh expanse of dry sand, the elephant knows that cool, life-giving water lies sleeping quietly just beneath the surface. Using their broad feet, their powerful trunks and their tusks, they begin to patiently excavate the dry earth. They dig deep, sloping holes into the sand, working slowly and methodically, continuing until the dark, cool water begins to seep upward from the hidden, subterranean water table below. After the herd has drank their fill, cooling their parched throats and washing the heavy dust from their faces, they slowly move on. But they leave these newly dug, precious wells behind. In doing so, they become the unintentional architects of the entire ecosystem, providing a vital, life-saving source of water for countless other species: warthogs, baboons, colourful birds, and delicate antelopes, who lack the immense strength or the ancestral knowledge to find water on their own. Their quiet, necessary labour brings life and relief to the entire parched savannah. Having sustained themselves and unknowingly provided for their fellow creatures, the herd eventually seeks the quiet comfort of rest. However, the way an elephant sleeps is surprisingly minimal for a creature of such grand and heavy proportions. In the wild, they sleep for only about 2 hours a night. For much of this brief time, they remain standing, leaning their heavy, tired sides gently against the broad, warm trunk of a giant baobab tree or the solid earth of a towering termite mound. They enter a light, drifting sleep, swaying ever so slightly in the cool, rhythmic night air, their trunks resting softly on the ground. It is only every few days that an elephant will fully lie down on its side in the soft dirt. They do this to enter the deep, restorative phase of heavy dreaming, but they can only remain in this flat position for about 30 minutes at a time, as their own immense body weight puts too much pressure on their large internal organs. So, their sleep is a series of gentle, brief respites, a quiet, standing meditation under the vast, glittering canopy of stars. As the brief night eventually fades and the intense, baking heat of the African sun returns to warm the air, the elephants rely on the very texture of their magnificent skin to survive the scorching day. An elephant's skin appears incredibly thick and heavily armoured, deeply sculpted with an intricate web of wrinkles, folds, and deep crevices. To a casual observer, it might simply look weathered by time, but every single line is a brilliant masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. Elephants do not have sweat glands to cool their massive bodies. To find relief, they draw cool water into their trunks and spray it in a glorious fountain over their broad backs, followed by a shower of fine, loose dust to create a thick, protective layer of wet mud. The deep wrinkles in their skin act as a highly sophisticated network of microscopic canyons. They trap and hold the moisture deep within the folds, preventing the water from immediately evaporating under the hot, relentless sun. This means the cooling effect of a single mud bath can last for hours, as the trapped, hidden water slowly, gently releases, creating a miniature, personalised cooling system that wraps them in continued comfort as they resume their slow, ancient march across the beautiful sunlit world. As that protective layer of cooling mud we spoke of earlier slowly dries into a pale ash-coloured crust under the afternoon sun, it creates a striking visual contrast against the smooth, polished gleam of the elephant's tusks. These magnificent ivory arches frame their faces like ancient curving monuments, reflecting the ambient light of the savannah. But if you were to observe a herd very closely, paying gentle attention to the subtle, unhurried details of their daily lives, you would notice a fascinating quirk of their behaviour. Just as you might reach for a pen, pour a glass of water, or open a heavy door with a dominant hand, an elephant possesses a distinct natural preference for using either its right or its left tusk to interact with the world. They are, quite literally, right-tusked or left-tusked. Over decades of carefully stripping the fibrous bark from acacia trees, gently digging into the hard, sun-baked earth for mineral-rich salts, or simply resting their heavy heads against a familiar sturdy branch, the dominant tusk begins to tell a silent physical story. It becomes slightly shorter, its tip softly rounded and smoothed down by years of constant dedicated use, while the subordinate tusk often remains longer and more sharply pointed. It is a beautiful, deeply individual trait, a quiet signature of their unique habits etched directly into the heavy ivory. This gentle wear and tear is not a sign of damage, but rather a living record of a life well lived, a slow autobiography written in the deliberate everyday actions of their existence. As the ambient heat of the day reaches its peak, blurring the distant horizon into a wavering golden mirage, the slow, rhythmic flapping of the elephant's ears becomes a mesmerising pendulum-like motion. These enormous ears, which in the African species are shaped remarkably like the great continent they inhabit, are far more than just instruments of hearing. They are vast, living canvases, heavily threaded with a beautiful, intricate cartography of raised blood vessels that branch out like sprawling river deltas across the thin skin of the ear's inner surface. As the massive ear swings forward and back in the hot air, the passing breeze gently glides over this complex network of veins, rapidly cooling the hot blood inside by up to 9 degrees Fahrenheit. This newly chilled blood then turns back inward, acting as an internal soothing river that steadily flows into the core of the animal, bringing immediate deep relief to their massive organs. It is a brilliant, entirely silent air conditioning system, built completely on the gentle, steady rhythm of a simple, sweeping motion, a physical exhale that keeps the giant perfectly balanced against the blazing heat of the sun. Follow that internal, cooling river of blood as it travels down into the dark, cavernous space of the elephant's massive chest. Here, deep within the safety of their ribs, you will find the profound drumbeat of the animal, a colossal heart weighing nearly 45 pounds. Unlike the tapered teardrop shape of a human heart, an elephant's heart is uniquely constructed. It is perfectly spherical, a great solid globe of dense muscle suspended within their chest. This immense round drum beats with an astonishingly slow, deliberate cadence. While resting calmly in the dappled shade, an elephant's heart beats only about 30 times per minute. It is exactly half the speed of our own resting heart rate, leaving long, quiet pauses of profound silence between every single pulse. There is a deep, grounding peace to be found in this languid, unhurried rhythm. As you picture this great, slow-beating heart echoing in the quiet of the savannah, you might find your own body naturally growing heavier, your own breath settling into a deeper, softer, more even pattern. There is no rush here. You can simply let your mind drift, anchoring your own sense of time to the deep, steady, ancient drumbeat of the gentle giant. From the deep, hypnotic rhythm of the heart, the journey of our awareness moves upward, travelling along the heavy, curving spine to reach the vast, silent architecture of the elephant's mind. The brain of a mature elephant is a true marvel of the natural world, weighing over 10 pounds and containing a staggering 257 billion neurons, roughly 3 times the number found in a human brain. But it is how they utilise this immense, complex neural landscape that is truly breathtaking. While humans dedicate vast portions of our minds to abstract reasoning or complex visual processing, an elephant channels an enormous percentage of its brilliant brain power directly into its trunk. Nearly 100,000 facial nerve fibres exist to map every single microscopic sensation experienced by that remarkable appendage. For an elephant, intelligence is not locked away in a distant, disconnected realm of silent thoughts. Their brilliance is intensely, deeply tactile. They think by feeling, understanding their sprawling environment with a level of physical intimacy and sensory richness that we can scarcely begin to imagine, touching the world to truly know it. This profound physical sensitivity is beautifully mirrored in the gentle, observant nature of their gaze. Set wide on either side of their massive heads, their dark, amber-flecked eyes possess a quiet, ancient knowing, and they are framed by the longest, most luxurious eyelashes found anywhere in the animal kingdom. Measuring up to a full 5 inches in length, these thick, sweeping bristles are not merely a decorative feature of their grand, wrinkled faces. They are a perfectly engineered, highly functional veil. As the elephant walks through the dry, swirling dust of the open plains, or pushes its heavy head through the dense, scratching foliage of a thorny thicket, these long lashes act as an incredibly sensitive warning system and a physical shield, gracefully sweeping tiny particles of debris away with every slow, deliberate blink. It is a comforting thought, this natural built-in protection against the harshness of the outside world. Just as their eyes are perfectly shielded by the soft sweep of their lashes, your own eyes can safely remain closed now, protected by the quiet dark of the room, allowing your waking thoughts to simply blur and fade softly into the background. Beneath those softly blinking eyes, hidden behind their thick grey lips, a slow, continuous process of regeneration is quietly taking place throughout their entire lives. The way an elephant eats is a slow, methodical grind, requiring them to break down hundreds of pounds of tough branches, thick, knotted roots, and coarse, fibrous grasses every single day. The steady, rhythmic sound of their chewing echoes softly through the brush. This constant, heavy friction would quickly wear down and destroy a normal set of teeth. However, an elephant possesses a remarkable evolutionary adaptation known as marching molars. Unlike humans, who grow a single set of adult teeth that must somehow last a lifetime, an elephant's teeth operate on a brilliantly slow, forward-moving conveyor belt. They're granted 6 distinct sets of massive brick-like molars over the course of their long lives. As the front tooth is slowly ground down into nothing by the tough vegetation, it gently breaks off in small, painless fragments, and a brand new, perfectly formed molar slowly slides forward from the back of the jaw to seamlessly take its place. It is a magnificent, ongoing cycle of biological renewal. The body instinctively knows exactly how to release what is no longer useful, calmly pushing forward the new growth exactly when it is needed, without any sense of urgency, effort, or alarm. Moving away from the dry brush, the herd's slow, rhythmic march eventually leads them out of the trees and onto the soft, muddy banks of a wide, sun-dappled river. Standing at the water's edge, an elephant presents a picture of overwhelming weight and gravity, heavily anchored to the earth. Yet, as they step down into the cool, dark currents, a surprising, almost magical transformation occurs. Despite carrying up to 6 tons of solid bone and dense muscle, elephants are incredibly buoyant, natural swimmers. They simply wade deeper and deeper until their massive feet lift entirely off the muddy riverbed, their huge bodies floating with an unexpected, effortless weightlessness. They paddle with a slow, powerful rhythm, entirely submerged except for the very top of their heads and their long trunks, which they extend high into the warm air above the surface like perfect natural snorkels. Drops of water fall gently from the tips of their trunks, catching the late afternoon light like liquid glass. To watch them cross a deep, quiet lake or a wide, rushing river is to witness a beautiful contradiction, the heaviest land mammal on Earth dissolving entirely into a state of fluid, drifting grace, perfectly suspended and deeply held by the cool, supporting embrace of the water. When they finally reach the opposite shore, hauling their glistening, dripping bodies out of the water and onto the sun-baked stones, they leave behind large, perfectly circular footprints in the wet, dark sand. If you were to examine these deep, rounded impressions, you would be looking at the quiet evidence of yet another astonishing anatomical secret. Although they appear to have flat, heavy, stump-like feet, an elephant never actually walks flat-footed. Hidden completely beneath the thick, grey, pillar-like skin of their lower legs, the dense bones of their feet are permanently angled downward. An elephant is, in reality, forever walking gracefully on its tiptoes. The massive gelatinous fat pad we marvelled at earlier acts as an artificial heel, filling the empty space behind the elevated toe bones and gently supporting their immense weight, dampening the sound of every step. It is a stunning, poetic realization to hold in your mind. This creature, so deeply and powerfully connected to the heavy earth, is structured anatomically like a delicate ballet dancer, always maintaining a subtle, lifted posture, carrying the immense weight of the world gracefully on the very tips of its toes. Safe on the new shore, surrounded by the lush green vegetation fed by the winding river, the herd stops to rest in the dappled, shifting shadows of a giant ancient fig tree. As they stand quietly together in the cooling air, a deep, resonant sound begins to ripple through the space between them. It is not a call of alarm, nor a distant, echoing trumpet, but rather a low, continuous rumble that vibrates right at the absolute edge of human hearing. Elephants, much like a small domestic cat curled comfortably on a warm rug, possess the beautiful ability to purr. This acoustic rumble is a pure, unadulterated expression of joy, contentment, and absolute tranquility within the family. It begins deep within their wide throats and resonates outward through their massive chest cavities, creating a soothing, invisible acoustic blanket that wraps securely around the entire herd. When the matriarch begins to softly purr, the youngest calves will naturally lean their small bodies against her heavy legs, closing their eyes, absorbing the gentle vibration of absolute safety. It is the ultimate sound of peace. Nothing needs to be held too tightly in this moment. You can let go of the day's lingering tension, allowing your own mind to rest within that imagined, resonant hum, surrounded by the quiet, invisible comfort of the sleeping herd. As the afternoon shadows begin to stretch longer and softer across the tall savannah grass, the rested herd slowly begins to feed again, gently plucking ripe, heavy fruits and dry seed pods from the high, sweeping branches above. As they consume these sweet, wild offerings, they swallow the hard inner seeds entirely whole. This simple, everyday act of eating is actually the silent beginning of a magnificent, invisible journey. Deep within the dark, slow-moving warmth of the elephant's digestive tract, the incredibly tough, seemingly impenetrable outer shells of these ancient seeds are gently softened and painstakingly broken down. Hours or even days later, as the herd has wandered miles away from the river, they leave these completely prepared seeds behind in the rich, dark, fertile soil. Some of the most majestic, towering trees in the African landscape rely entirely on this epic, quiet journey to survive. Their stubborn seeds simply will not germinate unless they have first passed through the dark warmth of an elephant. Without ever knowing it, these gentle giants are the ultimate, unseen mega-gardeners of the natural world. They are the quiet, lumbering architects of tomorrow's forests, planting the invisible seeds of giant trees under which future generations of entirely different creatures will eventually find comfort and shade. They move continuously through the vast world, asking for nothing, yet leaving a sprawling trail of abundant, thriving life in their wake. As the late afternoon sun finally begins to softly melt into the golden, heavy promise of the approaching evening, inviting the landscape to settle down for the night. As that golden, heavy promise of the approaching evening finally settles over the sweeping landscape, the concept of time itself begins to stretch and soften. In the world of the elephant, time is not measured in frantic minutes or rushing hours, but in the slow, sweeping arcs of the sun and the vast, unhurried cycles of the seasons. This profound patience is woven into the very beginning of their existence. When a mother elephant conceives a calf, she embarks on the longest period of gestation of any mammal on land. For 22 deeply quiet months, almost 2 full years, she carries the new life within her. She will walk through 2 entire cycles of heavy monsoonal rains and dry baking droughts, witnessing over 600 distinct sunsets before her calf is finally ready to meet the world. This immense waiting period is a biological necessity, allowing the calf's highly complex, brilliant brain to fully develop in the dark, warm safety of the womb. It is a masterpiece of slow creation. As you consider this incredible, enduring patience, you might find that your own sense of urgency begins to dissolve. There is no need to rush, no need to hurry the passing of the night. The body grows heavier, the breath settles, and your mind can simply drift, mirroring the unhurried, ancient pace of a creature that knows exactly how to wait for the right moment to arrive. When that long-awaited moment finally comes, and a newborn calf takes its very first trembling steps beneath the silver light of the rising moon, it enters the world with a charming, unexpected innocence. Despite possessing the most sophisticated and complex appendage in the natural world, a baby elephant has absolutely no idea how to use its trunk. For the first few months of life, this magnificent, multi-tooled marvel of muscle is simply a confusing, heavy obstacle. A young calf will frequently trip over its own trunk, accidentally step on the delicate tip, or swing it wildly in the air with uncoordinated, clumsy enthusiasm. To find comfort in a vast, overwhelming new environment, a baby elephant will often curl the tip of its trunk upward and gently suck on it, much in the exact same way a human toddler might suck their thumb for reassurance. It is an incredibly tender, deeply relatable sight. A tiny giant seeking comfort in the dark, entirely surrounded by the towering protective legs of its massive family. It reminds us that mastery takes time, and that even the most capable, brilliant beings begin their journey in a state of soft, vulnerable learning. This vulnerable new life is never left to navigate the darkness alone. The arrival of a calf, or simply the reunion of 2 family members who have been separated for a few hours grazing in the tall brush, triggers one of the most beautiful and complex social displays in the animal kingdom. Elephants celebrate their connections with elaborate, joyous greeting ceremonies. When they come together under the canopy of the night, the silence of the savannah is broken by a symphony of deep, vibrating rumbles, sharp trumpets, and the soft, percussive clicking of heavy ivory tusks gently tapping against one another. They flap their massive ears rapidly, creating a soft, rhythmic breeze, and intertwine their trunks in tight, affectionate embraces, essentially holding hands with exquisite, deliberate tenderness. They lean their heavy bodies against one another, physically reinforcing the unbreakable bonds of their family unit. It is a profound, undeniable expression of love and profound belonging. Nothing needs to be held too tightly in your own mind right now. You can simply allow your thoughts to rest safely within this imagined circle of profound connection, feeling the quiet security of a herd that protects its own with unwavering, gentle devotion. As the moonlight washes over the reunited family, it highlights the distinct textured landscape of their massive bodies. While we naturally think of elephants as being a uniform, slate grey, Their actual appearance is a beautiful, shifting illusion created by the earth itself. An elephant's true skin colour is indeed a dark charcoal grey, but they rarely stay that colour for long, because they constantly bathe in local rivers and coat themselves in the surrounding dirt to protect their sensitive skin from the sun and biting insects. They literally wear the landscape they inhabit. An elephant wandering through the rich, iron-heavy soils of Tsavo in Kenya will appear a brilliant, striking rust red. Those living near the great shimmering salt pans of Etosha in Namibia transform into ethereal, chalky white phantoms, coated in the pale, mineral-rich dust. They are living, breathing extensions of their environment, perfectly camouflaged by the very dirt they walk upon. It is a beautiful communion with the ground, a constant physical reminder that they are shaped by the earth, protected by the earth, and ultimately deeply at one with the vast quiet world that surrounds them. This intimate physical connection to the ground extends down to the very tips of their toes, revealing a quiet, subtle variation hidden in the dark dust. If you were to look closely at the heavy, rounded feet of the herd resting in the moonlight, you would notice that the biological architecture of their toes is not a universal constant. The grand, sweeping African bush elephant, moving gracefully across the open savannah, typically possesses 4 distinct toenails on its front feet and 3 on its back feet. However, its slightly smaller forest-dwelling cousin in Asia features a perfectly complete set of 5 toenails on the front and 4 on the back. These broad, thick nails of hardened keratin do not function like the claws of a predator. They are more akin to the heavy protective bumpers of a ship guarding the sensitive, shock-absorbing fat pads of their feet from sharp rocks, hidden thorns, and the rough, unforgiving terrain of their endless migrations. It is a tiny, easily overlooked detail, a quiet whisper of evolutionary divergence written in the heavy keratin that anchors these wandering giants safely to the silent earth. That deep, unbroken anchor to the earth is perhaps their most defining physical characteristic. Out of all the tens of thousands of mammal species that leap, bound, vault, and fly across our vast planet, the elephant is one of the very few that is physically incapable of jumping. They cannot spring into the air, nor can they gallop with the suspended, airborne grace of a horse. At every single moment of their lives, no matter how quickly they might walk or how playfully they might charge, an elephant must keep at least one of its massive padded feet firmly planted on the hard ground. Their immense skeletal structure and sheer, overwhelming mass simply do not allow for the biomechanical physics of leaving the earth entirely. They are forever tethered to the ground, bound by gravity in a permanent, lifelong embrace. There is a deep, comforting stillness in this realization. They do not need to fly or leap to be magnificent. And just like the elephant, your body too can sink heavier into the mattress, entirely supported, safely tethered to the quiet earth beneath you, requiring absolutely no effort, no movement, and no flight to simply exist in perfect peace. While their feet remain permanently grounded, other parts of their magnificent anatomy are engaged in a slow, continuous journey forward through time. The great sweeping tusks that frame their faces glowing pale and smooth in the night air are often misunderstood. They are not the sharp, piercing canine teeth typical of a predator, but rather deeply modified, wildly elongated upper incisors, and unlike the teeth of most mammals, which grow to a set length and then stop, an elephant's tusks never cease their slow, quiet expansion. They are a living, growing record of the animal's journey, pushing outward from deep within the skull at a steady rate of about 6 to 7 inches every single year. A majestic, older male might carry tusks so unimaginably long and heavy that they gently graze the tops of the dry grasses as he walks, a testament to decades of peaceful survival. They are magnificent, living clocks made of solid dentin and diamond-patterned enamel, growing inch by quiet inch, silently marking the long, slow passage of the years under the vast, starry ceiling of the African sky. the deep passage of time reveals even more astonishing secrets when we trace the long, winding path of their evolutionary history. If we look back through the millions of years of shifting continents and cooling climates, searching for the elephant's closest living relatives on this earth, the answer is delightfully unexpected. They do not share a close biological branch with the heavy rhinoceros, the river-dwelling hippopotamus, or any other massive hoofed creature of the plains. Instead, their closest genetic kin belong to entirely different, beautifully contrasting worlds. One is the manatee, a gentle, rotund marine mammal that drifts weightlessly through warm, shallow ocean seagrasses, moving with the same slow, peaceful lethargy as its giant cousin on land. The other is the rock hyrax, a small, furry, incredibly vocal creature no larger than a domestic rabbit, which spends its days basking lazily on sun-warmed boulders in the dry scrubland. To imagine the towering 6-ton elephant sharing a deep ancestral bond with the tiny sunbathing hyrax and the floating, gentle sea cow is to appreciate the brilliant, unpredictable, and entirely wondrous poetry of the natural world, a reminder that connection often thrives in the most surprising hidden places. As the night breeze gently sweeps across the open plains, rustling the dry leaves of the baobab tree, the herd lifts their heads in unison, their great trunks rising like dark periscopes against the starlit sky. They are not looking for danger, but rather reading the invisible, shifting tapestry of the wind. Within the long, muscular chambers of their trunks lie millions of highly sophisticated olfactory receptors, granting them a sense of smell that is 5 times more powerful than a human's and more than twice as sharp as that of a tracking hound. Through this incredible sensory gift, an elephant can actually smell the presence of fresh, life-giving water from over 12 miles away. They can detect the faint, cool scent of a hidden underground spring, or the damp, muddy promise of a distant, slow-moving river, pulling the molecules of moisture out of the dry night air. It is as if the wind itself is gently whispering the secrets of the landscape to them, drawing them forward with an invisible guiding hand, ensuring they will always know the way to precisely what they need to survive. But they do not only smell the water, they listen to the sky. During the long, punishing months of the dry season, when the earth cracks open and the rivers turn to dust, survival depends on finding the rains. An elephant's magnificent ears, combined with the extreme seismic sensitivity of their feet, allow them to detect the deep, infrasonic rumbles of a thunderstorm gathering an astonishing 150 miles away. Long before the first dark cloud ever appears on the horizon, and long before a human could ever hope to hear the faintest echo of thunder, the herd feels the distant storm vibrating through the ground and pulsing in the heavy air. With calm, unshakable certainty, the matriarch will slowly turn the entire family, altering their migration path to walk steadily into the dark, following the distant, booming promise of the coming rain. They step peacefully through the quiet night, tracking the invisible storms that will eventually bring the parched world back to blooming, vibrant life, their slow, deliberate footsteps fading softly into the vast, protective shadows of the sleeping earth, leaving the space around them perfectly still, perfectly calm, and ready to simply rest. As they follow the distant, booming promise of the coming rain through the quiet night, their long, steady march eventually requires a moment of profound, restorative pause. When the matriarch decides it is time to rest, the herd does not simply scatter randomly into the dark brush. Instead, they engage in a beautiful, silent choreography of collective care, forming a living, breathing fortress under the vast canopy of stars. The older, massive females arrange themselves into a wide, protective circle, their heavy grey bodies facing outward toward the vast expanse of the savannah, standing like ancient stone pillars guarding a sacred space. Inside this secure, shadowed ring, the youngest, most vulnerable calves are able to lie down completely flat on the soft, cool earth, surrendering entirely to a deep, untroubled sleep. This remarkable structure is a physical manifestation of alamothering, a deep social system where every single female in the herd acts as an aunt, a nursemaid, and a protector to every calf born into the family. It is an entire village of gentle guardians. Within this quiet circle, there is absolute safety, a collective holding that allows the young to rest without a single flicker of fear, wrapped entirely in the immense shared devotion of their extended family. As the giant guardians stand their silent watch, swaying ever so slightly in the cool night breeze, their own minds are far from empty. Deep within their massive skulls lies an extraordinarily large, highly complex and heavily folded structure known as the hippocampus. In mammals, this specific region of the brain is the biological epicenter of memory, emotion, and spatial navigation, and in the elephant, it is proportionately vastly larger than it is in a human being. As the adult elephants drift into their light, standing slumber, their immense memory centers remain quietly, diligently at work. They are silently processing and weaving together the sprawling, complex data of their vast world. The faint metallic scent of the distant storm, the rough texture of the bark they stripped earlier that afternoon, and a sprawling, intricate mental map of a territory that spans thousands of square miles. They are dreaming the landscape, consolidating decades of navigational wisdom into an unshakable, internal compass that will guide their family safely through droughts and floods for generations to come, their profound intelligence humming softly beneath the quiet stars. The soft silver moonlight drifting down through the thin clouds catches the edges of their massive, gently resting ears, illuminating a quiet, deeply personal detail hidden in the shadows. If you were to trace the outline of these magnificent ears, noting every subtle nick, every gentle tear, and every unique scalloped curve along the outer rim, you would be reading a completely individual visual signature. Because their large ears brush against thorny acacia branches, sharp thickets, and rough tree bark throughout the long decades of their lives, the delicate edges become weathered in entirely unique ways. No two elephant ears are exactly alike. They are as distinct, complex, and unrepeatable as human fingerprints, serving as natural visual name tags that allow researchers and fellow elephants alike to instantly recognize an individual from a great distance. It is a beautiful record of their interactions with the world, a living map of the paths they have taken and the forests they have moved through, worn gracefully like a perfectly tailored weathered coat. As you visualize this quiet, moonlit gallery of unique living canvases, allow your own body to soften and settle. The mind can simply drift, tracing the gentle, unhurried curves of the night. There is no need to hold on to these details, no need to catalogue the facts you hear. Just let them wash over you like the soft, rhythmic breeze moving gently across the open, sleeping savannah. This incredible, highly individualized biological uniqueness extends far beyond the frayed, beautiful edges of their ears, moving to the very center of their grand faces. If you were to look closely at the topmost section of an elephant's long trunk, exactly where the dense, heavy muscle meets the broad, sweeping architecture of their brow, you would find a complex network of deep, horizontal wrinkles. These heavily pronounced creases are not formed randomly by movement or age. They are an innate biometric signature present from the very moment a calf is born into the world. Just as we carry unique loops and whirls on the pads of our fingertips, an elephant carries a totally distinct, unrepeatable pattern of ridges across the bridge of its trunk. In recent years, wildlife conservationists have actually begun using high-resolution photographs of these specific, deeply etched facial lines to accurately identify and track individuals without ever needing to disturb them, reading the silent, unique barcodes that nature itself carved into their heavy, peaceful faces. When dawn finally breaks over the horizon, painting the sky in a breathtaking wash of soft mauves, crushed violets, and pale golds, the herd gently stirs from their protective circle and approaches a shimmering, undisturbed watering hole they sensed the night before. Here, the true, astonishing mechanical wonder of that wrinkled trunk is displayed in a quiet masterpiece of fluid dynamics. We know the trunk is incredibly strong and breathtakingly delicate, but it is also an extraordinary vessel. With a single, smooth, and incredibly deep inhalation, an adult African elephant can draw up to 2.5 gallons, nearly 10 litres, of water directly into the long, hollow nasal passages of its trunk in just a few silent seconds. They do not drink directly through this appendage. Rather, they use it as a massive, flexible living pitcher, curling the heavy tip upward and inward to gently cascade the cool, fresh water deep into their mouths. Watching them drink in the pale morning light is a study in effortless efficiency, a smooth, rhythmic cycle of drawing from the earth and nourishing the immense, heavy architecture of their bodies. While they stand peacefully at the water's edge, a deep, resonant rumble travels invisibly across the glassy surface of the lake, originating from an entirely different family of elephants resting miles away on the opposite shore. To perfectly capture and process this distant, low-frequency sound, the drinking elephants rely on a hidden, astonishing feature located just beneath their broad, domed foreheads. Much like the echolocating melon found in the heads of dolphins or the massive sperm whale, an elephant possesses a large, specialized internal pocket of acoustic fat. This dense, highly conductive tissue sits right at the front of their skull and acts as an organic living amplifier and a sophisticated acoustic lens. It captures the low vibration sound waves travelling through the dense morning air and perfectly focuses them, channeling the distant rumbling messages directly into their inner ear. To realise that these giant creatures of the dry earth share a complex sensory anatomy with the magnificent giants of the deep ocean is to feel a quiet sense of awe at the brilliant interconnected web of the natural world. Notice how deeply and seamlessly these creatures are tuned to the vast world around them, receiving distant, silent messages with an absolute, effortless grace. You too can effortlessly receive the quiet, enveloping calm of this journey. Your breathing can settle easily, naturally finding its own unhurried, rhythmic pace as the imagined morning sun slowly begins to warm the cool, damp earth beneath you. As that sun rises higher into the bright, clear sky, the air begins to hum with life, and tiny, iridescent insects, shimmering like living jewels in the light, begin to dance through the tall green reeds. One small, delicate butterfly lightly touches down on the heavy, grey flank of a resting matriarch. Her skin in this specific area is exceptionally thick, measuring more than an inch deep, a formidable, heavy, and seemingly impenetrable armour designed to withstand the harsh, unforgiving elements of the wild. Yet, she feels the arrival of this tiny creature instantly. Hidden just beneath the rugged, deeply cracked surface of her thick hide is an incredibly dense, profoundly rich network of highly sensitive nerve endings. This intricate web of feeling is connected to a specialized layer of muscle just under the skin called the panniculus carnosus, which allows the elephant to perfectly isolate and twitch a single, tiny patch of its massive body to gently chase away a landing fly or a resting butterfly. They are monumental fortresses of heavy bone and thick skin, but they are also woven entirely out of exquisite, microscopic physical sensitivity. Leaving the damp, muddy edge of the water behind, the matriarch leads her family back into the dense brush, but she does not immediately guide them toward the usual familiar patches of sweet, towering grasses. Instead, she deliberately alters her course, moving deep into a shadowed thicket to seek out a very specific, rare, and deeply bitter-tasting shrub hidden among the thorny underbrush. She's quietly engaging in a remarkable practice known as zoopharmacognosy, the incredible innate ability of an animal to self-medicate using the wild natural world as a pharmacy. Drawing upon decades of ancient inherited botanical wisdom, She knows that the specific, complex chemical compounds hidden within these rough, unappetizing leaves will safely soothe a mild ache in her massive joints, ease a digestive upset in one of her calves, or naturally aid in the progression of her long pregnancy. The forest is not merely a place to find simple calories. To the deeply intelligent, observant mind of the elephant, the sprawling landscape is a vast, ancient medicine cabinet, completely stocked with everything they need to heal, thrive, and survive in perfect harmony with the earth. Nourished, deeply hydrated, and quietly healed by the forest, the herd finally resumes its long, steady march toward the distant horizon. As they move together across the uneven, rocky terrain, their sheer size and overwhelming weight would suggest a jarring, heavy, thunderous gait that shakes the very ground. But if you were to watch the horizontal line of their broad backs as they walk, you would notice that it remains astonishingly, beautifully level, gliding smoothly and silently through the hot air, without any bouncing or sudden dropping. This is because elephants utilize a highly unique, specialized walking pattern known as an amble. Unlike a horse or a dog, which alternate their legs diagonally and create a springing, suspended motion, an elephant moves the two legs on one side of its body and then the two legs on the opposite side in a perfectly timed rolling sequence. This specific flowing biomechanical rhythm eliminates the intense, jarring shock of impact, preserving their heavy joints and allowing them to walk for 12 to 15 miles every single day with the smooth, undisturbed glide of a ship sailing across a calm, glassy sea. It is a movement built entirely for long, enduring distances rather than sudden, exhausting speed. A slow, continuous rolling flow that deeply honors the heavy, grounded energy of the body. You might feel that same continuous flow settling into your own resting state now. Nothing needs to be rushed. The slow, steady journey itself is more than enough to carry you perfectly forward into the quiet deep. As they continue their smooth, rolling amble toward the hazy, distant edge of the world, the dry, dusty wind of the open plains inevitably begins to swirl around their magnificent faces. They do not have the typical lacrimal glands that produce the watery flowing tears found in humans to quickly clear their eyes of the swirling debris. Instead, they are equipped with an entirely different, specialized biological defense known as the Harderian gland. Tucked safely behind their long, luxurious eyelashes, this unique gland secretes a thick, rich, and perfectly clear lubricating serum. This natural, heavy balm gently coats the entire surface of their large, dark eyes with every slow blink, protecting them entirely from the harsh, biting dust, the intense glare of the sun, and the dry, sweeping winds of the savannah. It is this constant, thick layer of protective serum that gives an elephant's eye its beautifully glossy, soulful, and deeply reflective appearance. It leaves them looking forward into the vast open distance with an expression of profound, undisturbed serenity, perfectly equipped and completely insulated against the turbulence of the world, their deep amber eyes reflecting nothing but the quiet, eternal calm of the long, peaceful road slowly stretching out before them. As they look forward down that peaceful road, the sheer size of their magnificent heads commands absolute awe. Supporting those beautifully reflective amber eyes, the sweeping heavy ivory tusks and the immense muscular weight of the long trunk requires an architectural miracle hidden entirely out of sight. If an elephant's massive skull were made of solid, dense bone, it would be far too heavy for the animal to ever lift its head from the soft earth. Instead, nature has masterfully crafted the interior of their skull using a brilliant, lightweight evolutionary design known as diploe. The thick bone is actually beautifully honeycombed, completely filled with thousands of tiny, intricate air pockets and vast, vaulted sinus cavities. This cellular structure creates a sprawling, complex labyrinth of empty space within the bone, making the enormous skull incredibly strong, yet astonishingly light. It is a magnificent masterpiece of natural engineering, a quiet reminder that true strength often relies not on heavy, impenetrable density, but on the presence of open, breathing space. Just as the elephant carries this vast, airy lightness safely within its mind, your own thoughts can naturally become lighter, less dense, easily floating and dissolving into the quiet, open space of the dark room around you. This beautiful concept of hidden, supportive space continues deeper within their towering frames, where the rhythm of their breath holds a profound secret shared by almost no other mammal on land. If you were to look at the hidden anatomy of their grand, expanding chest, you would discover an extraordinary adaptation meant to withstand the deep, heavy pressures of water. In human lungs, there is a delicate, empty gap called the pleural space, which relies on a fragile vacuum to keep our lungs inflated as we breathe. But an elephant's large lungs are completely and securely attached directly to their chest wall and heavy diaphragm by a thick, flexible web of dense connective tissue. There is absolutely no empty pleural space to be found. This highly unique biological design allows them to completely submerge their immense bodies in deep, rushing rivers, using their elevated trunks as natural snorkels, without the intense, crushing pressure of the deep water collapsing their lungs or rupturing their delicate blood vessels. They walk across the dry, dusty plains, carrying the internal, pressure-resistant architecture of a deep-sea diver, a silent evolutionary echo of their ancient aquatic ancestors drifting through prehistoric weightless waters. As they rise slowly from those deep, cooling waters and return to the sun-drenched plains, a gentle, drying breeze washes over their wet skin. We often imagine the elephant as an entirely hairless giant, a creature composed only of smooth grey folds and rough sun-baked wrinkles. Yet, if you were to stand very close and gently observe the texture of their vast sides, you would see a sparse, delicate covering of fine, stiff hairs catching the golden, shifting light. In almost all other terrestrial mammals, hair functions as a thick insulating blanket designed to trap heat tightly against the body. But the elephant's widely scattered, coarse hairs perform the exact opposite function. They act much like the miniature cooling fins on a mechanical radiator. As the warm savannah breeze moves across the animal's massive skin, these tiny, isolated hairs catch the moving air and actively draw the intense heat away from their heavy bodies, increasing their ability to cool down by up to 20%. It is a brilliant, entirely counterintuitive marvel of nature, a delicate, barely there texture providing a vital, invisible thermal shield against the overwhelming, oppressive heat of the midday sun. The subtle, shifting movements of that savannah air bring more than just a cooling breeze. They carry a rich, invisible tapestry of complex scents and hidden chemical stories. When an elephant encounters a particularly intriguing scent, perhaps the lingering dusty memory of a passing herd, or the sweet sharp fragrance of a newly blossomed flower hidden in the brush, it will reach out with the highly sensitive tip of its trunk to gently touch the air or lightly tap the earth. But it does not simply inhale the fragrance. Instead, it gracefully curls its trunk inward, placing the scent-laden, finger-like tip directly against two tiny hidden openings located on the very roof of its mouth. These small openings lead directly to the vomeronasal organ, often known as Jacobson's organ. By carefully pressing the gathered scent molecules against this highly specialized chemical receptor, the elephant effectively tastes the scent, translating invisible airborne fragments into a profound, vivid, and deeply detailed understanding of their sprawling environment. It is a beautiful blending of the senses, a synesthetic dream where the passing air becomes a distinct flavour, and the invisible world becomes a vibrant, fully understood map stretching out in all directions. As they navigate this vivid, richly scented map, moving their immense weights silently and gracefully across the uneven terrain, their heavy, pillar-like feet hold yet another beautifully concealed secret. We previously marvelled at the heavy, shock-absorbing fat pads and the specialized internal toes that allow them to walk smoothly on their tiptoes. But hidden deep within that dense, gelatinous cushion, entirely invisible from the outside world, is a remarkable piece of evolutionary architecture, a hidden false thumb. Scientifically known as a prepollex, this dense cartilaginous structure functions essentially as a sixth hidden toe. It evolved entirely over millennia specifically to help distribute the crushing downward force of the elephant's immense body weight, acting as a specialized internal strut that supports the back curve of the foot. To realize that nature quietly constructed an entirely new hidden digit just to ensure their gentle, rolling amble remains perfectly balanced is to deeply appreciate the profound, unseen support systems that silently hold the world together. You can feel that exact same unseen support beneath you right now, the quiet, steady certainty of the mattress rising securely to meet your weight, allowing your heavy muscles to fully release, knowing you are completely, safely held. The slow, rolling amble of those heavily supported feet is beautifully counterbalanced by the gentle, rhythmic swaying of their tail. While it may seem small and delicate compared to the vast grey geography of their body, the elephant's tail is a fascinating, highly functional appendage. It ends in a thick, dark tuft of incredibly stiff, wire-like hairs that can grow up to 3 feet long. These thick bristles are so dense, rigid, and strong that they possess the hard texture of coarse steel wire. As the tail sweeps back and forth in a slow, hypnotic, pendulum-like motion, it does far more than just naturally swat away persistent, buzzing insects. It acts as a highly sensitive, sweeping tactile antenna, because an elephant cannot easily turn its massive, heavy head to see directly behind it. The continuous sweeping tail provides a constant, reassuring awareness of the empty space at their back. It is a gentle, rhythmic, invisible guard, ensuring that even the unseen world behind them is deeply known and understood, allowing the giant to walk continuously forward into the horizon with absolute, undisturbed and profound peace of mind. That deep, undisturbed peace of mind is accompanied by a quiet, observant brilliance that allows them to interact with the acoustic world in astonishing, highly unexpected ways. We know they communicate over vast distances using deep, earth-shaking rumbles, but their vocal abilities actually possess a rare, beautiful plasticity. Elephants are one of the very few large mammals outside of humans, bats, and certain marine mammals that are genuinely capable of true vocal learning and complex mimicry. If raised near a busy, rumbling highway, an African elephant might gradually learn to perfectly recreate the low, rhythmic thrum of a passing truck engine. In quiet sanctuaries, some highly observant Asian elephants have been known to listen so closely to their human caretakers that they begin to softly mimic the cadence, the tone, and the specific pitch of human speech, moving their heavy trunks in highly unusual, deliberate ways to physically shape the unfamiliar sounds. This extraordinary ability reveals a vast mind that is deeply, intensely listening to its environment, calmly absorbing the acoustic textures of the surrounding world, and gently, playfully reflecting them back into the air. This profound, continuous interaction with the world is not limited to mirroring sound. It physically and permanently reshapes the very stones and earth of the continent. When a large family herd moves across the landscape, they do not wander aimlessly or randomly. They follow ancient invisible maps handed down precisely through generations, walking the exact same heavy paths their ancestors walked centuries or even millennia before them. Over countless generations, the slow, steady, relentless pressure of millions of heavy, padded footsteps gracefully compresses the earth into hard, smooth, permanent trails. These deeply worn paths, often referred to as elephant highways, carve permanent, winding routes through dense, seemingly impenetrable jungles and over steep, craggy mountain passes. The constant friction of their passing heavy bodies literally polishes massive boulders along the route until they gleam smoothly like dark glass, and their constant rhythmic grazing trims the high canopy, permanently altering the shape of the forests. They are not merely living as temporary guests in the landscape. They are slow, gentle geological forces, patiently and quietly sculpting the face of the earth with the persistent ancient rhythm of their endless walking. Sometimes these ancient, beautifully polished highways lead away from the bright sunlit forests and disappear entirely into the mysterious absolute dark of the deep earth. On the rugged, heavily forested slopes of Mount Elgon, an extinct shield volcano resting quietly on the border of Kenya and Uganda, elephant herds engage in a behaviour that seems to belong entirely to the realm of magic and myth. In the deep of the night, they walk slowly, single file into vast pitch-black subterranean caves. Guided only by the precise spatial memory of the wise matriarch and the gentle tactile sweeping of their sensitive trunks and smooth tusks along the rough stone walls, they navigate hundreds of feet deep into the total, echoing darkness. They journey peacefully into the heart of the mountain to reach the mineral-rich rock embedded deep within the cavern walls. Using their strong ivory tusks, they patiently carve and scrape the stone in the dark, mining vital, life-sustaining salts that are completely absent from the lush vegetation outside. It is a surreal, awe-inspiring image, towering giants of the sunlit plains moving peacefully and fearlessly through the absolute blackness of the underground world, trusting their memory and the gentle touch of their family to find exactly what they need in the shadows. Emerging safely from the cool, dark, echoing embrace of the cave, the herd steps back out into the slow, gentle light of the early dawn. As the sun begins its steady, warming climb, tracking a bright arc across the vast open sky, the elephants respond with a subtle, beautifully synchronized turning of their massive bodies. To prevent the immense dark surface area of their thick skin from absorbing the full punishing heat of the midday sun, they will naturally and quietly orient themselves so that they are facing directly into or directly away from the intense sunlight. By pointing the narrowest part of their physical profile toward the sun, they drastically minimize the amount of skin exposed to the direct blazing rays, essentially acting as vast, living, breathing sundials. The entire herd will stand quietly together in the shimmering heat, perfectly aligned with the descending light, casting long, slender, cooling shadows across the dry, pale grass. It is a quiet, masterful alignment with the cosmos, a slow, turning dance with the sun itself, ensuring that even in the brightest, most demanding moments of the hot day, they remain perfectly balanced, perfectly cool, and perfectly at peace, letting the heavy golden hours simply wash over them in silence as they wait for the soothing, cooling relief of the coming dusk. As the herd remains perfectly aligned with the descending sun, their silhouettes casting those long, slender, cooling shadows across the pale grass, the air begins to take on a new, crystalline quality. The intense glare of the afternoon softens, and in this gentler light, the world becomes a place of intricate patterns and hidden symmetries. While the elephants appear as solid, monolithic figures against the horizon, their physical presence is actually a delicate balance of immense power and surprising, fine-tuned sensitivity. This balance is nowhere more evident than in the way they manage their internal world. Even as they stand in what looks like absolute stillness, their bodies are engaged in a constant quiet dialogue with the environment. This dialogue is facilitated by a unique biological trait that many might find unexpected for a creature of such size. Elephants possess a highly developed temporal gland, located just beneath the skin between the eye and the ear. This gland periodically secretes a dark, oil-rich substance known as temperin. While it serves many social functions, it is also a living indicator of their internal state, a visible mark of the profound hormonal and emotional tides that flow within them. It is a reminder that even the most grounded and stable beings are subject to deep, internal rhythms, moving through cycles of intensity and calm, just as the day inevitably moves toward the quietude of the night. The dark, damp trail of the temporin gland creates a sharp contrast against the dry, dusty landscape, leading the eye toward the magnificent architecture of the elephant's head. If you were to look inside that massive skull, past the honeycombed bone we marvelled at earlier, you would find a sensory world that is vastly different from our own. While we rely so heavily on our sight, the elephant lives in a world of profound textures and chemical nuances. This is governed by their extraordinarily large olfactory bulbs, which are the parts of the brain dedicated entirely to processing smell. In an elephant, these bulbs are more developed than in almost any other land mammal. They do not just smell the world, they perceive it in high-definition three-dimensional detail. They can distinguish between the scent of a single person they haven't seen in 20 years and a complete stranger. They can detect the chemical signature of a distant family member's health or emotional state simply by sniffing the air they left behind. It is a deep, fragrant history of the world, a library of scents that allows them to move through the dark with a level of certainty that no map could ever provide. As you think of this invisible world of aromas, you might feel your own mind expanding, letting go of the need for visual focus and simply drifting into the sensory richness of your own quiet surroundings. This expansion of the senses naturally leads to a softening of the body, much like the way an elephant's heavy muscles relax when they find a patch of soft, cool mud. As the body grows heavier and the breath settles, we can appreciate the sheer, unhurried scale of their life's journey. Everything about an elephant is built for the long term, including the very way their skeletons are constructed. Most mammals have a marrow cavity in the centre of their long bones, which is where blood cells are produced, but which also makes the bones lighter and potentially more brittle under extreme weight. The elephant, however, has evolved solid, dense bones throughout much of its limbs. These bones act like solid marble pillars, providing a level of structural integrity that allows them to carry their multi-ton weight for 70 years without the structural fatigue that would plague a lighter frame. It is a design of absolute permanence. There is no fragility here, only a deep, solid foundation that supports the magnificent weight of their existence. You can feel that same sense of solid support now, a deep, heavy groundedness that requires absolutely nothing from you other than to simply be. The stillness of those marble-like limbs is often broken by the most delicate and purposeful of movements, the use of tools. While we often think of tool use as a uniquely human or primate trait, elephants have mastered the art of the forest with a quiet, inventive brilliance. In the heat of the day, an elephant will not just wait for the wind, it will take matters into its own trunk. They have been observed breaking off specific branches of the exactly right length and leafiness to use as specialised fly swatters. They will strip the excess twigs to make the handle more comfortable, and then use the fan to keep their sensitive skin clear of biting insects. Some have even been seen chewing on the ends of branches to create a soft, absorbent plug, which they then use to block a small waterhole they have dug, preventing the precious liquid from evaporating in the sun until they return. This is not just instinct, it is a thoughtful, creative interaction with the physical world. It reveals a mind that looks at a simple branch and sees a solution, a mind that is constantly quietly engaged in the art of making life a little bit more comfortable. This creative intelligence is underpinned by a social structure that is perhaps the most empathetic in the animal kingdom. Within the herd, the bond between a mother and her daughter is a connection that often lasts for the entirety of their lives, 5, 6, or even 7 decades. Unlike many other animals where the young eventually strike out to form entirely new lives, female elephants almost never leave their natal herd. This creates a multi-generational tapestry of wisdom, where a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter all walk side by side, sharing the same memories and the same ancient paths. This lifelong continuity provides a profound sense of psychological security. A young calf grows up in a world where her mother is always within reach of a trunk touch, and where her grandmother's decades of experience are always there to guide her. It is a world of absolute, unbroken belonging. Nothing needs to be held too tightly when you are part of such an enduring weave of care. You can simply let your mind drift into that same sense of belonging, knowing that you are held by the quiet, steady presence of the night. The continuity of their family life is mirrored by the continuity of their physical growth. While most mammals reach a certain height and then stop, elephants are indeterminate growers, meaning they continue to get larger throughout almost their entire lives. A massive bull elephant in his 50s is significantly larger than he was in his 30s, and his tusks will be proportionately more magnificent. This means that in the elephant world, size is a direct reflection of time, experience, and survival. The largest individuals are the ones who have seen the most, travelled the furthest, and survived the most difficult droughts. They are living monuments to endurance. When a younger elephant looks up at a massive elder, they are looking at a physical manifestation of history. There is a quiet dignity in this slow, lifelong expansion. It teaches us that there is no rush to reach a final state, that growth is a quiet, ongoing process that continues as long as we're moving through the world. As these living monuments move through the tall grass, they often encounter the smallest inhabitants of their world with a surprising level of care. There is an ancient, beautiful story that suggests elephants are afraid of mice, but the truth is far more fascinating and reveals a much deeper sensitivity. While they aren't afraid of mice, they are remarkably cautious around honeybees. The buzzing sound of a disturbed hive will cause an entire herd to instantly freeze and then move away with a very specific, low-frequency bee alarm rumble. They have learned that while their skin is thick, the soft tissues of their trunks and the areas around their eyes are vulnerable to stings. In some parts of the world, farmers now use beehive fences to gently guide elephants away from crops, without the need for any harsh barriers. It is a beautiful, natural boundary. The elephant respects the tiny bee, and the bee protects the farmer's field. It is a reminder that even the most powerful being on earth has a deep, innate respect for the boundaries of the small, and that strength is most magnificent when it is tempered by a quiet, cautious awareness of the world's smaller voices. That awareness of the small and the delicate is also found in the elephant's own anatomy, specifically within their incredible ears. We know they use them for cooling and for hearing, but the skin on the back of an elephant's ear is among the thinnest and most sensitive on their entire body. In some places, it is barely thicker than a few sheets of paper. This thinness allows them to feel the most minute changes in air pressure and temperature. It is also the area where they are most likely to touch one another during those gentle greeting ceremonies. When two elephants stand side by side, one will often reach out and softly drape the back of its ear against the other's trunk or shoulder. It is a gesture of extreme vulnerability and trust, placing their most sensitive skin against the strength of another. This quiet, tactile language of the ears is a constant, soft murmur of, "I am here, you are safe," a reassurance that vibrates through the herd in the golden hours of the day. As the day begins to fold into the long purple shadows of the evening, the elephant's digestive system continues its own slow, rhythmic work. An elephant's gut is a vast, complex fermentation vat, nearly 100 feet long. Because they only digest about 40% of what they eat, their transit time is remarkably fast for such a large animal. This means they are constantly quietly moving nutrients through the landscape, but there is a beautiful symbiotic relationship hidden in this process. Inside the elephant's warm, dark digestive tract live billions of specialized ciliates, microscopic single-celled organisms that help break down the tough cellulose of the plants the elephant eats. The elephant provides the house and the food, and the tiny ciliates provide the chemical keys to unlock the energy. Without these microscopic partners, the giant could not survive. It is a profound internal partnership between the massive and the minuscule, a silent cooperation that sustains the life of the giant from within. It reminds us that we are never truly alone in our journey. We are supported by a vast, invisible network of life that works tirelessly to keep us moving forward. Finally, as the first stars begin to prick through the fading light, the herd finds a place of absolute stillness. In these moments of transition, elephants have been observed engaging in what can only be described as a form of moon gazing. On nights when the moon is full and bright, herds have been seen standing in quiet, expectant clusters, their trunks raised toward the silver orb, remaining perfectly still for long periods of time. They aren't feeding, they aren't travelling, and they aren't communicating. They're simply observing. There is a deep, contemplative quality to their stillness, a sense of quiet awe at the luminous beauty of the night sky. In these moments, the elephant is not just a biological entity or a social creature. They are a witness to the vastness of the universe. They remind us that the most important thing we can do at the end of a long, busy day is to simply stop, to look up at the quiet stars, and to allow ourselves to be filled with the silent silver wonder of the world. The mind can now simply drift into that same moonlit stillness, letting go of all thoughts, all facts, and all weight, as the night closes its soft, dark wings around the sleeping world. As the silver light of the moon begins to wash over the hushed savannah, bathing the landscape in a cool, ethereal glow, the herd's gentle presence seems to merge with the very shadows of the earth, creating a bridge between the waking world and the profound, silent mysteries that wait for us in the deep of the night. The silver light of the moon continues to wash over the hushed savannah, bathing the landscape in a cool, ethereal glow that turns the rough grey hides of the sleeping giants into shimmering monuments of basalt and silk. In this profound stillness, where the only movement is the slow, rhythmic expansion of massive lungs, a hidden biological rhythm is at work, one that governs the very foundation of an elephant's long life. Unlike many other large mammals that burn through their life energy with a rapid, frantic intensity, elephants possess a metabolic rate that is incredibly slow and efficient. Their basal metabolic rate is roughly 30% lower than what would be expected for a mammal of their size. This slow-burning internal fire means that every cell, every muscle fibre, and every heartbeat operates on a lengthened, unhurried timeline. It is a biological pact with time itself, a way of stretching the years out into a long, leisurely stroll rather than a sprint. As you contemplate this deep, internal slow motion, you might feel your own internal rhythm beginning to mirror theirs. The world outside may move with a hurried pace, but here, in the company of the herd, time has no teeth. You can allow your breath to lengthen, finding that same slow, efficient pulse that sustains the giant for 3/4 of a century. This unhurried biological pace is perfectly reflected in the way they interact with the air itself, particularly through a unique anatomical feature hidden deep within their throats. Elephants possess a specialized structure known as the pharyngeal pouch, a small, muscular pocket located at the base of the tongue. While other animals use their mouths simply for the passage of food and air, the elephant uses this hidden chamber as a secret, internal reservoir. In times of extreme heat or when water is scarce, they can actually draw liquid back up from this pouch using their trunks, dousing themselves with a fine, cooling mist from the inside out. It is a remarkable, self-contained survival mechanism, a way of carrying a small piece of the cool river with them wherever they go. This ability to find refreshment from within, to carry a hidden source of relief in the midst of a dry landscape, is a beautiful metaphor for the mind's own ability to find a place of calm. Just as the elephant reaches into its own internal well, you can reach into the quiet spaces of your own thoughts, finding a cool, refreshing stillness that is always there, waiting just beneath the surface of the day. As the moonlight shifts, casting long velvet shadows across the dry riverbed, the texture of the elephant's skin becomes almost architectural, a landscape of deep canyons and high ridges. We have spoken of how this skin protects and cools, but it also serves as a sophisticated sensory organ for detecting the subtlest changes in the atmosphere. High within the dermis of an elephant's hide are specialized receptors called Pacinian corpuscles. which are particularly sensitive to low-frequency vibrations. These are the same sensors that allow them to hear through their feet, but when distributed across the vast surface of their body, they act like a living, breathing barometer. An elephant can actually feel a change in barometric pressure long before a storm arrives, sensing the weight of the air shifting as a weather front approaches. They are physically tuned to the very mood of the sky, moving in harmony with the pressures and pulses of the planet. There is a profound security in being so deeply connected to the world's natural signals. You can trust that your body too knows how to respond to the coming of the night, naturally settling as the light fades and the air grows still. This sensitivity to the atmosphere is matched by a remarkable cognitive ability that helps them maintain the peace within their complex social groups. Elephants are capable of targeted empathy, a high-level cognitive trait where an individual can understand the specific cause of another's distress and take the exact action needed to help. If a young calf becomes tangled in a thicket of thorny vines, the older members of the herd do not just rumble in sympathy. They will use their tusks and trunks with surgical precision to lift the specific branches causing the bind. If a grieving mother stands too long by a fallen companion, another female will gently place her trunk over the mother's temporal gland, a gesture that has been shown to physically lower stress hormones in the recipient. They do not just feel for one another, they act for one another. This active, intelligent kindness is the glue that keeps the herd together through decades of travel. It is a reminder that we are at our strongest when we are most attuned to the needs of those around us, and that a single, gentle touch can be the most powerful tool in the world. Nothing needs to be held too tightly as you drift further into this world of quiet support. The mind can simply observe these acts of kindness, letting them settle like soft dust on the floor of your consciousness. The body is becoming more and more like the earth itself, heavy, stable, and completely at rest. The earth beneath the herd is not just a surface for walking, it is a source of vital, hidden strength that they seek out with a specialized ancestral craving. In certain parts of the world, elephants frequent what are known as salt licks, or mineral licks, exposed patches of clay or soil rich in sodium, calcium, and magnesium. But the way an elephant eats the earth is a slow, meditative process. They will use their tusks to loosen the soil, and then, using the tip of their trunk, they will pick up a small, precise amount of the mineral-rich dirt and blow it into their mouths. Sometimes they will stand in these spots for hours, quietly processing the minerals, their trunks moving with the rhythmic grace of a weaver's shuttle. These minerals are essential for their bone density and for the healthy growth of those magnificent, ever-expanding tusks. It is a quiet, necessary ritual of replenishment. It teaches us that to maintain our great strength, we must periodically return to the simplest elements of the earth, taking in what we need to stay grounded and whole, allowing the minerals of the world to fortify us from the inside out. Following that path of internal fortification leads us back to the incredible complexity of the trunk, which we have admired for its strength and its delicacy. But there is a specific tiny feature at the very tip of the African elephant's trunk that reveals a world of microscopic focus. While we have opposable thumbs, the African elephant has two fingers, one on the top lip of the trunk tip and one on the bottom, that are so sensitive they can detect a difference in texture as fine as a single grain of sand. These fingers are powered by a dense concentration of Meissner's corpuscles, the same nerve endings found in human fingertips that allow for fine tactile discrimination. An elephant can use these fingers to investigate the surface of a leaf, determining its moisture content and age without even picking it, or to gently palpate the skin of a companion to check for a hidden injury. This level of sensory detail means that for an elephant, the world is not just a collection of large objects, but a vast, infinite sea of tiny, fascinating textures. As you rest, you might find your own awareness shrinking down to the smallest, most comforting textures around you. The softness of a blanket, the coolness of a pillow, the gentle weight of the air on your skin, finding a deep, microscopic peace in the simple sensation of being. That microscopic focus is often used for the most tender of purposes, the care of the herd's youngest members. Within the secret internal world of the elephant, milk production is a marvel of nutrient density. A mother elephant's milk is exceptionally high in fats and proteins, but it also contains a unique chemical composition that changes as the calf grows. For the first several months, the milk is rich in specific antibodies and lipids that facilitate the rapid growth of the calf's massive brain and the strengthening of its immune system. Interestingly, an elephant's mammary glands are located between their front legs, rather than in the rear like most four-legged mammals. This positioning allows the mother to use her trunk to gently guide the calf to nurse, or to stroke the calf's head and back while it feeds, creating a multi-sensory experience of nourishment and touch. It is a beautiful, intimate arrangement that ensures the beginning of life is defined by a constant physical connection to the source of all safety and sustenance. This connection to the source of life is a theme that resonates through the elephant's entire evolutionary history. While they are the giants of the land today, their origins are deeply tied to the water. Millions of years ago, the ancestors of the elephant, such as the Moeritherium, were small, pig-like creatures that spent much of their time in swamps and rivers, much like modern hippos. Over eons, as they moved onto the dry land and grew in stature, they retained many of the biological features that made them successful in the water. The snorkel-like trunk, the specialized lungs, and the buoyant paddle-like gait. They carry the ocean and the river within their very DNA, a silent, ancient memory of a world that was fluid and weightless. When you see an elephant standing on the dry, dusty plains, you're actually looking at a creature of the water that has learned to master the earth. This ability to carry one world into another, to adapt and thrive while holding on to your deepest roots, is a profound testament to the resilience of life. You can let your mind drift back into those ancient, watery memories, feeling the fluid, weightless grace of a time before the world grew heavy and solid. The breath settles even deeper now, finding a rhythm that is as steady and ancient as the tides. There is nothing you need to achieve, nowhere you need to go. You're simply a witness to the long, slow unfolding of a magnificent life, drifting in the quiet current of the night. As the herd moves through the forest, they demonstrate an incredible spatial memory that extends to the very three-dimensional structure of the trees. Elephants do not just remember where a forest is, they remember the architecture of the food within it. They have been shown to possess a mental inventory of hundreds of individual trees, remembering which ones produce the sweetest fruit and exactly which month of the year that fruit will be ripe. They will plan their migrations months in advance to arrive at a specific grove of marula trees or wild figs, precisely when the branches are heaviest with harvest. This is not just wandering, it is a highly sophisticated form of mental time travel, a way of mapping the future based on the detailed data of the past. It reveals a mind that is always looking ahead, always preparing, yet doing so with a calm, unhurried confidence. They do not worry about the harvest, they simply know it will be there, and they move toward it with the steady, patient pace of those who trust in the cycles of the world. Finally, as the moon begins to dip toward the western horizon and the first, faint suggestion of blue enters the deep black of the sky, we find the herd engaged in one of their most mysterious and beautiful behaviors, the silent vigil of the stars. In the quietest hours of the morning, when the wind has died down and the world is at its most still, elephants have been observed standing perfectly motionless for long periods, their heads tilted slightly upward, their vast ears flared as if catching the very music of the spheres. In these moments, they are not feeding, they are not communicating, and they are not resting in the traditional sense. They are present. They are simply existing in the vast, glittering cathedral of the night, their massive forms silhouetted against the infinite. It is a state of pure, unadulterated being. They remind us that the greatest strength is not found in doing, but in the ability to stand still and simply behold the wonder of the universe. As the night slowly turns toward the dawn, you can find that same stillness within yourself. You can let go of the need to think, the need to know, and the need to remember. You can simply be, drifting in the silver light of the fading moon, a quiet part of the magnificent eternal rhythm of the world as the shadows begin to soften and the giants prepare to walk once more into the light of a new, peaceful day. The first hint of warmth begins to touch the edges of the horizon, a soft, pale amber that slowly dissolves the sharp lines of the night, inviting the herd to stir with a gentle collective sigh that ripples through the tall grass like a whispered promise of the light to come. The first hint of warmth begins to touch the edges of the horizon, a soft, pale amber that slowly dissolves the sharp lines of the night, inviting the herd to stir with a gentle collective sigh that ripples through the tall grass like a whispered promise of the light to come. As that pale golden light slowly crests the distant rolling hills, it catches the sweeping, smooth curves of the elephant's resting tusks, turning the pale ivory into brilliant arcs of warm, glowing dawn. To the naked eye, these magnificent tusks appear as solid, uniform curves of smooth, impenetrable bone. Yet, hidden deep within the microscopic architecture of the dentin is a breathtaking, highly complex geometric secret. If you were to look at a cross-section of an elephant's tusk under the soft light of a microscope, you would not see a plain, flat, uniform surface. Instead, you would witness a brilliant, intricate tapestry of perfectly intersecting arcs and gracefully overlapping lines. These are known in the scientific world as Schrieger lines, a unique structural phenomenon that creates a mesmerizing three-dimensional diamond lattice throughout the entire length of the ivory. This natural cross-hatching matrix is precisely what gives the tusk its incredible, enduring strength and its subtle, pearlescent beauty. It is a masterpiece of hidden engineering, a quiet, profound reminder that true strength is rarely a solid, unyielding wall, but rather a complex, deeply woven inner architecture. Just as the tusk holds this beautiful, unseen structure within, your own mind holds a deep, quiet resilience, a perfectly woven calm that remains completely undisturbed by the shifting light of the waking morning. Bathed in this growing golden light, the wise matriarch takes her very first deliberate step forward, signalling the gentle beginning of the day's slow, rhythmic journey. The entire family responds with a fluid, silent grace, naturally falling into a perfect single-file line behind her as they move into the brush. When a herd travels through the tall, dew-drenched grass of the sprawling savannah, or across the soft, yielding, dark mud of a riverbank, they engage in a mesmerizing, ancient display of collective movement. The elephant walking immediately behind the matriarch does not forge her own separate, difficult path through the heavy vegetation. Instead, she carefully lifts her massive, heavy foot and places it precisely into the deep, rounded, perfectly formed impression left by the matriarch's initial step. The next elephant does the exact same thing, and the next, all the way down the line to the youngest calves. From above, it appears as though only a single, massive creature has walked across the quiet landscape. This beautiful, synchronized stepping elegantly conserves vital energy, as only the leader must push through the heavy resistance of the thick brush. It is a profound act of absolute trust and deep familial harmony. Your own breath can settle into this same effortless rhythm right now, naturally following the gentle rising and falling path paved by the moment before it, requiring absolutely no extra effort, simply gliding safely into the soft spaces already made for you. As they walk perfectly in this trusting, unified sequence, the visual world they inhabit is vastly and beautifully different from our own. Because their large, soulful amber eyes are set widely apart on the extreme sides of their massive heads, elephants possess an incredible, sweeping panoramic field of peripheral vision. They can see the wide, distant edges of the world with perfect, undisturbed clarity. However, this evolutionary placement creates a remarkable sensory paradox right in the very centre of their awareness. The immense, sweeping breadth of their heavy forehead and the thick, deeply muscular base of their trunk completely block their forward vision, creating a significant, permanent blind spot directly in front of their own faces. They cannot actually see what is immediately beneath their chin or directly in their forward path. To navigate this invisible, immediate space, they rely entirely on the sweeping, highly sensitive tip of their trunk, using it like a gentle, rhythmic, living pendulum to constantly feel, map, and understand the hidden ground before them. It is a beautiful, deeply poetic reliance on touch over sight, proving that we do not always need to clearly see the path ahead with our eyes to know exactly where we are going. The body can intuitively feel the way forward, trusting the deep, quiet internal senses to guide us safely through the unseen. When that sweeping, incredibly sensitive trunk encounters an object hidden within the blind spot, it demonstrates a physical contradiction that borders on the miraculous, revealing the true depth of its complex design. We have marvelled at the sheer, overwhelming, brute power of this appendage, woven securely from tens of thousands of individual muscle fascicles. An adult male can effortlessly wrap his trunk around a fallen, dense ironwood log, weighing over 700 pounds, and toss it aside into the brush as if it were a fragile, hollow twig. Yet this exact same instrument of colossal, earth-moving force possesses an unbelievable microscopic delicacy. If an elephant finds a single, tiny, hard-shelled marula nut resting deep in the dry, powdery dust, it can use the two prehensile, finger-like extensions at the very tip of its trunk to gently lift it. With a perfectly calculated, infinitesimal fraction of its total power, the elephant applies just enough exact soft pressure to crack the tough outer shell without ever bruising or crushing the sweet, soft, nutritious kernel hidden inside. It is the ultimate expression of perfectly controlled power, the profound ability to hold immense, world-shaking strength in absolute reserve, applying only the softest, lightest, most precise touch when handling the fragile things of the world. You can allow your own mind to gently adopt this same quiet precision, releasing any heavy, forceful thoughts and simply holding the present moment with the softest, lightest possible touch. Having delicately retrieved the small, sweet kernel, the elephant swallows, sending the morsel down into a vast digestive system that beautifully reflects the deeply peaceful, unhurried nature of its long existence. Within the sprawling, complex internal landscape of the elephant's massive body, there is a fascinating, quiet biological absence. Elephants do not possess a gallbladder. In many other mammals, including humans, the gallbladder acts as a specialised active storage pouch for bile, releasing it in sudden, highly concentrated bursts to help the body rapidly break down heavy, sudden intakes of rich fats. But the elephant is a creature of the slow, steady, eternal graze. Their peaceful diet consists entirely of fibrous grasses, leaves, roots, and dry bark, foods that are incredibly low in fat and require slow, patient processing. Because they eat almost continuously throughout their long waking hours, their heavy liver simply secretes a slow, constant, gentle trickle of digestive enzymes directly into the stomach. There is absolutely no need for a holding tank, no need for sudden, overwhelming chemical reactions or rushed digestion. Their entire internal rhythm is built exclusively around the concept of a constant, gentle, effortless flow. The mind can simply drift now, embracing this same steady, continuous flow of the present moment, recognizing that there is no need to store up nervous energy or brace for sudden changes, but only to quietly receive the calm nourishment of the now. As they peacefully graze and digest in this slow, continuous, beautiful rhythm, the morning air around them is not filled with an empty silence, but rather a rich, complex, and almost entirely hidden symphony of connection. While the human ear is most familiar with the iconic echoing trumpet of an alarmed elephant, and we have spoken of their deep, vibrating, earth-shaking infrasonic rumbles, the true daily vocabulary of the herd is astonishingly vast and delicate. Researchers spending years listening closely to the quiet, day-to-day interactions of an elephant family have identified well over 70 distinct, highly specific vocalizations. This incredible layered acoustic tapestry includes soft, breathy sighs of deep contentment, sharp, high-pitched squeaks of playful surprise, rhythmic guttural barks used to gently correct a wandering calf, and low, humming chirps that sound almost exactly like the warble of a large resting bird. It is a deeply nuanced, profoundly linguistic world, where every subtle shift in tone, every slight alteration in pitch, and every soft pause carries a specific intentional meaning. They are constantly wrapped securely in a soft, invisible acoustic embrace of shared information and emotional expression, a continuous, gentle conversation that binds the massive creatures together through the air. It is a deeply comforting thought to know that they are never truly walking in silence, but are always surrounded by the familiar, murmuring, protective voices of those who know them best. This constant, murmuring acoustic stream of sound is particularly vital for the newest, smallest members of the family, whose early experience of the bright, sprawling world is initially painted only in soft shadows and muted light. When a baby elephant first opens its eyes to the vast expanse of the African savannah, its vision is incredibly, surprisingly poor. For the first several months of its fragile life, a newborn calf is essentially wandering through a heavily blurred, dimly lit dreamscape. They cannot easily distinguish sharp shapes, nor can they perceive the hard line of the distant horizon. To survive and thrive in this visually muted, soft focus world, the calf relies entirely on the rich, enveloping sounds of the singing herd and, most importantly, on the profound, grounding sense of touch. They navigate the vast, intimidating wilderness by constantly brushing their small, rough sides against the heavy, familiar pillared legs of their mother, and by reaching out constantly with their tiny trunks to feel the reassuring, solid presence of their protective aunts. Their entire early existence is defined not by what they can clearly see, but by the physical, undeniable feeling of being completely surrounded by a towering protective wall of living, breathing love. As you close your own eyes to the world, allowing your waking vision to blur and fade seamlessly into the comfortable dark, you too can rely entirely on the deep feeling of the soft, protective space around you, perfectly safe and deeply, completely held. Deep within the chest of that safely guarded, slowly walking calf, its small, perfectly spherical heart pumps a heavy fluid that holds a brilliant, microscopic chemical secret, tailored exactly to the extreme demands of their immense environment. As the African sun climbs higher into the pale, cloudless blue sky, bathing the dry earth in shimmering waves of intense, radiating heat, most mammalian bodies would begin to internally struggle. In a typical mammal, the hemoglobin in the blood, the complex molecule responsible for carrying life-giving oxygen, binds far too tightly to the oxygen when the internal body temperature rises significantly, making it incredibly difficult to deliver that vital oxygen to the tired, heavy muscles. But the elephant's blood is structurally, beautifully unique. Their hemoglobin has evolved a specific, rare molecular mutation that allows it to function with absolute, flawless efficiency, regardless of how intensely hot the animal's massive body becomes. It unloads oxygen into the deep tissues with smooth, effortless ease, ensuring that even in the most punishing, blazing heat of a severe, prolonged drought, the elephant's immense muscles remain perfectly, richly oxygenated. It is a microscopic marvel of deep endurance, an internal adaptation that guarantees the giant will always have the breath and the quiet energy to take the next, slow step forward, no matter how heavy the air around them may become. while their specialized, beautifully adapted blood perfectly manages their internal oxygen in the sweltering heat. The rising temperature of the long day requires them to find entirely different, external ways to cool their vast, heavy bodies. We know they purposefully flap their great map-like ears and bathe joyfully in the cool, dark mud, but their biological relationship with their own skin is fascinatingly, beautifully restrictive. Across the entirety of their sprawling, rough grey topography, over their broad, dusty backs, down their thick, heavy legs, and across their vast, intricately wrinkled sides, an elephant does not possess a single working sweat gland. The immense, thick barrier of their skin remains completely, entirely dry. In fact, the only place on their entire magnificent body where they are physically capable of sweating is located in the soft, delicate, hidden cuticles situated directly above their heavy toenails. When the ambient temperature climbs toward its absolute baking peak, a careful, patient observer might notice a faint, dark dampness quietly gathering right at the very base of their feet, gently mixing with the dust. It is a tiny, highly localized release of moisture, a quiet, almost entirely hidden biological sigh. This profound absence of widespread sweating allows them to naturally conserve massive amounts of precious, life-sustaining water in a dry landscape, turning their massive bodies into perfectly sealed, incredibly efficient vessels of life that refuse to let go of what they need. As the heavy heat of the day reaches its absolute zenith, the travelling herd seeks the dappled, shifting, beautiful shade of a sprawling acacia tree, a plant notorious across the plains for its vicious 2-inch-long, razor-sharp white thorns. To most grazing creatures, the acacia is an impenetrable, dangerous fortress of pain, but to the elephant it is a sweet, deeply desired and easily conquered feast. Reaching high into the green canopy, they use their trunks to strip entire thick branches of their leaves, thorns and all, and place the chaotic, sharp bundle directly into their mouths. Here, another stunning anatomical marvel seamlessly takes over. Supporting the heavy base of their massive, incredibly muscular pink tongue is a deeply robust, specialized bone structure known as the hyoid apparatus. This unique internal architecture grants the heavy tongue an astonishing range of powerful yet incredibly delicate sweeping mobility. Inside the dark, cavernous space of their mouth, the massive tongue works with meticulous, unhurried precision, expertly folding the sharp, jagged thorns perfectly flat against the rough, woody stems. They gently crush the sharp points with their heavy marching molars and perfectly package the food with their agile tongue before swallowing, ensuring the dangerous spikes pass safely and smoothly through their long digestive tract. They do not fight the harsh sharpness of the world. They simply, calmly and gracefully fold it into something they can easily digest, turning a harsh obstacle into quiet, sustaining nourishment as they rest deeply in the cool, lengthening, peaceful shadows. As they rest deeply in the cool, lengthening, peaceful shadows of the acacia trees, perfectly folding the sharp thorns into harmless nourishment, a new and profoundly comforting sound begins to echo gently through the quiet grove. It is a deep, resonant, rhythmic gurgling, a heavy, rolling hum that seems to vibrate directly from the centre of their massive bodies. In the human world, a rumbling stomach is often a simple sign of hunger, but in the intricate social language of the elephant, this continuous, loud, digestive symphony, scientifically known as borborygmi, holds an entirely different and beautiful meaning. It is the ultimate involuntary broadcast of absolute tranquility. Because their vast digestive tracts are constantly processing fibrous grasses and leaves, they naturally produce this deep rumbling sound as long as the animal is perfectly calm and relaxed. However, the moment the matriarch senses a shift in the wind, or hears the faint distant snap of a dry branch, the entire herd's stomachs will instantly and completely fall silent. This sudden, heavy absence of sound is an immediate invisible alarm that alerts every member of the family to pause and listen. As long as the deep gurgling hum continues to echo softly through the shaded air, every calf and elder knows they are surrounded by absolute unbroken safety. This continuous acoustic blanket of safety allows the family to engage in a highly complex, beautifully fluid social structure that gently mirrors the slow, meandering path of a great river. While we often imagine an elephant herd as a single, permanently bonded, inseparable mass of grey bodies, they actually exist in what biologists call a fission-fusion society. Knowing that their low rumbles and peaceful digestive hums keep them constantly connected across vast distances, the large family will frequently and softly drift apart during the long grazing hours of the day. A few young females might wander over a golden ridge to explore a patch of sweet grass, while the older mothers linger near a cool mud wallow with their sleeping calves. They separate without a single trace of anxiety, gracefully dissolving into smaller, intimate subgroups, only to perfectly seamlessly flow back together as the sun begins to set. It is a social dance of absolute trust and magnificent freedom, rooted in the deep knowing that a physical separation never means a loss of connection. There is no anxiety in this gentle drifting. You too can allow your own thoughts to softly wander and drift apart now, knowing that the mind can safely explore the quiet spaces of the dark, entirely tethered to a deep, unshakable centre of calm. To perfectly manage these complex, fluid reunions and to maintain such profound, distant empathy, the elephant relies on a breathtaking architectural marvel hidden deep within the sweeping landscape of its massive brain. If you were to look closely at the cellular structure of their anterior cingulate cortex, the region responsible for deep emotional processing and social intuition, you would find an exceptionally rare, highly specialized type of brain cell. These are known as von Economo neurons or spindle neurons. Unlike typical heavily branched brain cells, these are long, elegant, and beautifully streamlined, designed specifically to transmit rapid, intuitive emotional judgments across the vast distances of a large brain. They are the biological foundation of deep empathy, grief, and complex social awareness. Astonishingly, these exact same elegant spindle cells are found only in a tiny elite circle of the most emotionally intelligent creatures on Earth: humans, great apes, and the majestic deep ocean whales. To understand that the elephant walking across the dry, dusty savannah shares the exact same microscopic, emotional architecture as the leviathan diving through the lightless depths of the sea is to feel a quiet, profound awe at the invisible, brilliant threads that connect the most magnificent minds of the natural world. This immense, internal capacity for deep empathy is constantly expressed outward into the world through the most delicate, tactile exploration. We have marvelled at the heavy strength and the precise finger-like tips of their long trunks, but the entire length of this sweeping appendage possesses an almost microscopic sensory secret. To the casual observer, the grey skin of the trunk appears heavily wrinkled and smoothly worn by the dust. Yet, it is actually covered in thousands of tiny, stiff, highly sensitive hairs known as vibrissae. Much like the beautifully calibrated whiskers on the face of a resting cat, these short, tactile bristles run all the way up and down the outside of the trunk. As the elephant swings its heavy head, these tiny, unseen whiskers detect the most imperceptible, subtle shifts in the air currents, sensing the solid shape of a nearby tree trunk or the gentle slope of a hidden rock long before the skin actually touches it. They are surrounded by an invisible, highly sensitive force field of feeling, allowing them to confidently sweep their trunks through the absolute pitch black of a moonless night, perfectly reading the unseen textures of the world without ever stumbling or jarring their heavy bodies against the hard earth. The ability to so perfectly master this exquisite, sweeping sensory instrument is not something an elephant is simply born with. It is a profound, beautiful journey of slow, deliberate learning. In the animal kingdom, many prey species, such as the wild gazelle or the plain zebra, are born with highly hardwired brains, capable of standing, running, and navigating the harsh world just hours after taking their first breath. But the elephant enters the bright world as a beautifully unfinished masterpiece. A newborn calf's brain is highly altricial, meaning it weighs only about 35% of its final adult mass. Because they are born so safely protected by the massive, impenetrable fortress of their devoted family, nature did not need to program them with immediate rigid instincts. Instead, they are granted the rare, luxurious gift of a long, unhurried childhood. They spend the first 10 years of their lives slowly, peacefully expanding their minds, watching their mothers, making playful mistakes, and absorbing the vast, complex wisdom of the herd at a deeply comfortable pace. They remind us that the most brilliant, capable minds are not built in a single, rushing moment. True wisdom is a slow, quiet accumulation. The body grows heavier, the breath settles, and you can sink completely into this understanding that there is no rush to be finished, no urgency to know everything at once. You can simply rest, exactly as you are, perfectly supported in the slow ongoing process of simply being. Part of that slow, beautiful accumulation of wisdom involves learning the deep, ancient secrets of the earth itself, specifically how to use the quiet ground to heal their vast bodies. When an older, experienced female leads her family to the soft, dark edge of a seasonal waterhole, they do not just splash the mud across their backs to merely cool the skin. The elephants are highly selective about the specific types of soil they choose to wear. They actively seek out deep, sticky muds that are naturally rich in kaolin and smectite clays. These specific heavy minerals possess an incredible, natural astringent quality. When the wet, mineral-rich mud is plastered over a painful insect bite, a minor scratch from a sharp acacia thorn, or a patch of irritated skin, the clay acts as a powerful drawing poultice. As the grey mud slowly dries and cracks in the warm savannah breeze, it actively draws out toxins, pulls away harmful bacteria, and seals the delicate wound from the harsh biting flies of the afternoon. The elephants do not need a pharmacy. They have learned over thousands of generations to let the quiet, patient earth act as their physician, deeply understanding that the ground they walk upon holds the gentle power to restore and heal their heavy skin. As the healing mud dries into a beautiful pale ash colour, the elephant lowers its massive head down to the cool, dark water to take a long, refreshing drink, and then gracefully sweeps its heavy skull high into the canopy to pluck a single, sweet green leaf. This simple, everyday motion conceals a dramatic internal cardiovascular triumph. When an animal weighing 6 tons lifts its massive head from the ground to high above its shoulders, the sudden, extreme shift in elevation and gravity should cause a catastrophic drop in blood pressure, leading to instant dizziness or fainting. But hidden safely at the very base of the elephant's heavy skull is a brilliant evolutionary failsafe known as the rete mirabile, Latin for marvellous net. This is a sprawling, highly complex, deeply intricate web of incredibly elastic blood vessels and tiny arteries. When the elephant swiftly raises or lowers its giant head, this spongy, muscular net instantly expands and contracts, acting as a perfect biological pressure valve. It completely absorbs and regulates the sudden, heavy surge of the blood, ensuring a smooth, continuous, perfectly unbroken delivery of oxygen to their massive brain. Their internal world is a masterpiece of total balance, perfectly adapting to the shifting weights and heavy pressures of their movement, keeping the giant completely grounded and clear-minded, no matter how their perspective shifts. As that massive, balanced head rises toward the upper branches, a sudden, breathtaking burst of brilliant colour shatters the muted palette of the grey elephant and the golden grass. A small flock of southern carmine bee-eaters, tiny aerodynamic birds painted in striking vivid shades of deep rose, bright turquoise and pale blue, swoops gracefully out of the sky to land softly on the elephant's broad, dusty back. The giant creature does not flinch or brush them away. they exist in a beautiful, silent, symbiotic partnership. As the heavy, pillar-like feet of the elephant roll smoothly through the tall, dry grass, they naturally kick up thousands of tiny hidden moths, grasshoppers, and flying insects. The tiny, colourful birds ride comfortably on their moving grey mountain, using the elephant as a perfect, elevated hunting perch, darting out into the air to catch the fleeing insects before returning to rest on the thick, wrinkled skin. It is a stunning, poetic visual contrast. The sweeping, monumental weight of the Earth's largest land mammal, effortlessly carrying the bright, fragile, weightless beauty of the sky. It serves as a gentle reminder that true strength is completely unbothered by the delicate, and that even the heaviest, most formidable structures can act as a quiet, supportive foundation for lightness and grace. You can feel that same gentle support now, allowing the heavy mattress to carry all of your weight so that your mind can simply become light, colourful, and free to drift. The grey giant carries its tiny, bright passengers forward until they reach the towering, swollen trunk of an ancient baobab tree, its bare, twisting branches reaching up into the pale sky like the roots of a world turned upside down. During the most punishing, relentless years of deep drought, when the rivers turn entirely to cracked dust and the surface water vanishes, the baobab tree becomes a silent saviour. Because its enormous, fibrous trunk acts like a giant wooden sponge, it can store tens of thousands of gallons of cool rainwater deep within its core. Drawing on decades of inherited memory, the matriarch steps forward and uses her smoothly worn tusks to carefully, deliberately chisel away the hard outer bark. She then uses her strong trunk to pull out the damp, wet, pulpy wood from the inside, chewing it quietly to extract the precious, life-saving moisture. Over many years of doing this, the elephants slowly carve massive, beautiful hollows into the sides of the ancient trees. They do not destroy the baobab. The tree easily survives this gentle pruning. Instead, the elephants act as the grand, slow sculptors of the savannah. The deep, cool hollows they leave behind eventually become safe, shadowed homes for nesting owls, resting leopards, and giant monitor lizards. Through their simple quest for a drink of water, they unknowingly build quiet sanctuaries for countless other lives, reshaping the landscape with a slow, enduring grace. As the long, slow work of the day finally begins to settle, the bright, punishing heat of the sun slowly dissolves, slipping silently below the western horizon and leaving behind a sky stained in deep, bruised purples and fading soft oranges. As the heavy dusk settles over the plains, a profound, invisible physical transformation occurs in the very air itself. Throughout the hot day, the baked earth radiated intense heat upward, scattering the elephant's low, vibrating sounds into the turbulent sky. But as twilight falls, the ground rapidly cools, while a layer of warm air remains trapped just above it. This meteorological phenomenon creates a perfect invisible acoustic mirror known as the atmospheric boundary layer. When the matriarch stands in the gathering dark and releases a deep, infrasonic rumble to check on her distant sisters, the low sound waves travel outward, hit this invisible ceiling of warm air, and bounce perfectly back down to the earth. Because of this beautifully quiet, settling evening air, her voice is suddenly capable of travelling exponentially further, allowing her to converse clearly with loved ones resting up to 300 square miles away. The cooling of the world literally expands their invisible universe. As the darkness falls, their voices stretch out across the vast sleeping plains, weaving an immense, comforting net of sound through the twilight, inviting the entire landscape to finally close its eyes, drop its heavy weight, and surrender entirely to the perfect echoing peace of the long night. As that long night gradually yields to the very first tentative ribbons of dawn, the herd begins to stir from their deeply rooted slumber. The transition from perfect stillness to synchronized motion is not a chaotic awakening. but rather a masterfully orchestrated acoustic ballet. Before a single heavy foot is lifted to resume the march, a highly specific low-frequency vocalization ripples through the family. Researchers call it the "let's go" rumble. It begins with the matriarch, a soft, throbbing vibration in her chest, and is immediately answered and echoed by the other senior females. This deep, resonant sound is precisely coordinated, acting as a gentle, acoustic gathering of minds. It ensures that every calf is awake, every elder is ready, and the entire massive family is completely unified in their intention before they step forward into the new day. It is a beautiful, democratic alignment of energy, a quiet consensus that no one will be left behind. Your own mind can find comfort in this deep, organized harmony. You do not need to brace yourself for sudden shifts. You can simply allow your awareness to move smoothly and gently, perfectly synchronized with the slow, deliberate unfolding of the narrative. When they finally step forward into the cool morning dew, their movement is facilitated by a unique skeletal grace that sets them apart from almost every other four-legged creature on Earth. If you observe the legs of a dog, a horse, or a lion, their hind legs bend backward at the knee, creating a springing, vaulted architecture built for sudden, explosive speed. But the elephant is designed entirely for heavy, enduring stability. They are the only mammals equipped with what appear to be 4 forward-facing knees. Anatomically, the joints on their front legs are actually highly modified wrists, but they hinge and bend in the exact same forward direction as their true hind knees. This unique pillared alignment allows the giant to kneel gracefully and gently straight down to the earth, lowering their massive 6-ton bodies with the smooth, controlled reverence of a deep bow. It is an architecture of profound grounding. The heavy body does not need to spring or vault. It only needs to stand, to walk, and to sometimes rest softly upon the earth, surrendering its great weight entirely to the quiet support of the ground beneath it. As those deeply supported heavy feet press into the soft rain-dampened soil of the marshland, they leave behind immense circular depressions. To the elephant, these deep tracks are simply the quiet evidence of their passing, but to the miniature world of the forest floor, these footprints are life-giving miracles. During the long wet season, a single deep footprint quickly fills with fresh rainwater, transforming almost instantly into a perfect self-contained micro-ecosystem. For weeks or even months, these tiny temporary ponds become vital nurseries for specialized species of frogs, safe havens for aquatic insects, and crucial drinking pools for delicate butterflies and wandering beetles. The elephant literally creates hundreds of tiny thriving universes with every mile it walks. It is a staggering realization of unseen impact. The idea that simply moving through the world with heavy, purposeful steps can unknowingly provide shelter and life for countless microscopic communities left beautifully in your wake. The mind can rest peacefully on this thought, knowing that even our quietest, most unobserved actions can ripple outward, creating tiny pools of good in the vast, interconnected forest of the world. This immense planetary impact stretches far beyond the muddy footprints they leave behind, reaching all the way up into the invisible atmospheric breath of the Earth itself. In the deep, emerald shadows of the Congo Basin, the slightly smaller, darker African forest elephant acts as a master gardener of the global climate. As they forage through the dense, tangled jungle, they naturally prefer to eat the leaves and shoots of smaller, fast-growing trees, tearing them down and clearing the thick underbrush. By constantly removing this fast-growing, softer vegetation, they deliberately reduce the intense competition for sunlight and soil nutrients. This allows the massive, slow-growing hardwood trees, the true giants of the forest, to thrive and expand over centuries. These colossal hardwoods are the planet's most efficient carbon sinks, absorbing and locking away vast amounts of atmospheric carbon deep within their dense, heavy trunks. Without the quiet daily pruning of the forest elephant, these magnificent carbon-storing trees would be crowded out. The elephant is, quite literally, tending the lungs of the earth. They wander through the dim green light, silently ensuring the air we all breathe remains balanced and pure, a monumental act of planetary healing performed entirely without ego or intent. While the forest elephant shapes the deep jungle, a quiet architectural divergence exists between the giants of the different continents, written beautifully across the very lines of their vast backs. If you were to trace the silhouette of an African elephant standing on the sweeping plains, you would draw a graceful dipping curve, a distinct concave valley that rests between the high peak of their shoulders and the rise of their hips. But if you were to travel eastward and trace the outline of their Asian cousins standing in a misty sun-dappled rainforest, your hand would draw a completely different shape. The back of the Asian elephant rises in a smooth, continuous convex arch, a magnificent rounded dome that mirrors the rolling ancient hills of their eastern habitats. It is a profound, silent poetry of form. Nature did not mass-produce these gentle giants. She gently sculpted their very skeletons to reflect the distinct sprawling landscapes they inhabit. The body grows heavier just contemplating these deep continental curves. You can allow your own posture to completely soften now, sinking into the natural supportive curve of the mattress, letting go of any rigid lines and simply flowing into the comfortable shape of rest. As those domed, forest-dwelling Asian elephants move slowly through the years, tracking decades of deep monsoons and quiet, dry winters, their journey is visibly recorded on the very surface of their skin. While African elephants maintain their uniform, deep charcoal grey colour throughout their entire lives, the Asian elephant experiences a breathtaking physical blossoming of time. As they age, the dark pigmentation on their trunks, their faces, and the broad, sweeping edges of their ears begins to slowly, softly fade. This natural process reveals stunning, intricate patches of pale, freckled pink skin. These beautiful, blooming maps of depigmentation are utterly unique to every individual, growing more prominent and complex with every passing year. They are not a sign of frailty, but rather a vibrant, living badge of immense survival and accumulated wisdom. To look at the heavily freckled pink and grey face of an elder Asian elephant is to read a quiet, beautiful diary of longevity, a visual celebration of a life that has weathered the decades and emerged not diminished, but uniquely, beautifully decorated by the slow, gentle touch of time. That accumulated wisdom is not merely skin deep, it is anchored in a vast, sprawling cognitive map of social connections that rivals the complexity of any human community. We know the matriarch intimately remembers the winding, invisible paths to hidden water, but her memory for voices is perhaps even more astonishing. Researchers have discovered that an older, experienced female can perfectly recognize and distinguish the specific, individual contact calls of over 100 entirely different elephants from outside her immediate family. As her herd peacefully grazes on the open plains, she is constantly, quietly monitoring the low, distant rumbles drifting on the wind. She knows instantly if the sound belongs to a trusted friend from a neighbouring family, a distant wandering acquaintance, or a complete stranger. She holds a massive, intricately detailed acoustic directory in her mind, tracking the complex, shifting relationships of the entire savannah over a lifespan of 60 years. It is a profound, comforting web of knowing. Nothing needs to be held too tightly in your own mind right now. You can simply rest, surrounded by the deep, quiet comfort of knowing you are part of a vast, interconnected world that remembers and recognizes the unique, quiet signature of your own presence. The profound uniqueness of every individual within that sprawling social network is etched into the very smallest, most delicate points of their physical contact with the world. We marvelled earlier at the extraordinary sensitivity of the prehensile, finger-like extensions at the very tip of their massive trunks, but hidden right on the soft, fleshy pads of those tiny fingers is a deeply familiar microscopic secret. If you were to take a soft ink pressing of the very tip of an elephant's trunk, you would see a sprawling, complex pattern of tiny, looping friction ridges. These intricate whorls, arches and swirling lines are perfectly equivalent to human dermatoglyphics, the fingerprints we carry on our own hands. No two elephants in the entire history of the world have ever possessed the exact same pattern on the tip of their trunk. When they reach out to gently caress the dusty cheek of a newborn calf, or to softly touch the ancient weathered tusk of an elder, they are leaving behind an invisible, entirely unrepeatable signature of their unique, individual self. It is a beautiful reminder that even in a creature of such overwhelming monolithic size, the deepest truth of their identity is found in the smallest, most exquisite microscopic details. Sometimes that incredibly sensitive, uniquely patterned trunk is the only part of the giant visible above the surface of a deep, endless blue. While we naturally associate elephants with the dry, dusty plains of Africa or the dense emerald jungles of Asia, they possess an ancient, lingering mastery of the deep water that defies all logical expectation. In certain archipelagos, such as the Andaman Islands in the Bay of Bengal, elephants have been known to embark on breathtaking oceanic journeys. Driven by a deep internal desire to explore, or simply following the ancient invisible scent of sweet fruit drifting across the salt breeze, they will confidently wade into the crashing surf and swim across the open ocean to neighbouring islands. Utilising their massive buoyant bodies to float effortlessly in the rolling swells, they extend their long trunks high above the saltwater crest to breathe, paddling with a slow, hypnotic, metronomic rhythm. They can swim continuously for hours, navigating deep oceanic channels where their heavy feet cannot possibly touch the bottom. It is a surreal, deeply calming image, the heaviest creature of the solid earth dissolving into the fluid, weightless embrace of the sea, trusting the deep, quiet currents to carry them safely to a new, unseen shore. When they finally haul their heavy, dripping bodies out of the cool surf and onto the warm, sun-baked sand of the new island, the deep, emotional need for comfort and reassurance remains a central pillar of their existence. This need is expressed most beautifully in the prolonged, gentle interactions between mothers and their growing calves. While an elephant calf is typically weaned off its mother's nutrient-rich milk by its 3rd or 4th year, the psychological act of nursing serves a profound, lingering purpose that extends far into their childhood. It is very common to see older calves, sometimes as old as 8 or 10 years of age, nearly half the size of their mothers, gently reach up and softly suckle during moments of stress, exhaustion, or simply when seeking a quiet moment of absolute peace. The mother patiently allows this, knowing that her calf is no longer seeking calories, but rather the deep, unmatched emotional reassurance of her physical presence. It is a pure, unadulterated expression of the need to be grounded, to be held, and to feel safe. You can let the breath settle completely now, allowing your own mind to drift back into that same profound state of perfect comfort. There are no expectations placed upon you here, no demands on your energy. There is only the quiet, enduring safety of the dark, holding you securely as you drift further and further down the slow, peaceful river of the night. As you drift further down that slow, peaceful river of the night, completely held by the quiet dark, a similar steady current is flowing continuously within the resting giants. The journey of their heavy blood, quietly circulating through a 6-ton frame, presents a staggering biological challenge, particularly when it comes to the vast distance it must travel from their massive pillar-like feet all the way back up to their chest. To overcome the immense, relentless pull of gravity, the elephant has evolved a hidden secondary pumping system. That incredibly dense fibroelastic cushion pad hidden deep within the sole of their foot, the same memory foam structure that allows them to walk in absolute silence, serves a vital secondary purpose. It acts as an organic, living venous pump. With every slow, deliberate step they take, and even as they shift their heavy weight ever so slightly while standing in the moonlight, the physical compression of this thick pad forcefully pushes the pooling blood back up the massive veins of their legs. It is a stunning realization that nature has placed a secondary, beating heart squarely in the sole of the elephant's foot, ensuring that the quiet, life-giving rhythm of their internal river is perfectly maintained simply by the act of remaining gently, heavily connected to the earth. This beautiful, internal fluid dynamic is mirrored outwardly by the mesmerizing, boneless fluidity of their most famous appendage. The heavy sweeping trunk is not merely a muscular tube, it is categorized by biomechanics as a muscular hydrostat. This is the exact same rare biological architecture that forms the human tongue or the incredibly agile arm of a deep-sea octopus. A muscular hydrostat contains absolutely no skeletal support, no rigid bones, and no hinged joints. Instead, its strength and movement are governed entirely by the incompressible nature of its own internal tissues. Because the volume of the trunk must always remain constant, whenever one microscopic group of muscle fibers contracts, another group must simultaneously, perfectly stretch and expand. This creates an infinite, perfectly fluid range of motion, allowing the trunk to effortlessly twist, coil, extend, and sweep in any conceivable direction without the limiting friction of a skeleton. It is the ultimate expression of liquid strength, a heavy, muscular waterfall that moves with the mesmerizing, undisturbed grace of a slowly uncoiling ribbon, entirely free from the rigid constraints of bone. When we follow that graceful, uncoiling ribbon down to its very end, we discover that the intricate tactile tools at the tip change beautifully, depending on the specific ancient forests the giant calls home. We have admired the two highly sensitive prehensile fingers found at the tip of the sweeping African elephant's trunk, allowing them to perfectly pinch and pluck tiny objects from the dust. But if we travel eastward into the dense, misty emerald rainforests of Asia, the biological architecture softly shifts. The Asian elephant possesses only one single finger-like projection, located at the very top edge of its trunk. Because they lack an opposing lower finger to create a pinching motion, they have developed an entirely different, incredibly elegant method of interacting with the small things of the world. They do not pinch, they wrap and scoop. To lift a small, delicate piece of fruit or a fragile blossom from the forest floor, the Asian elephant curls the entire heavy tip of its trunk gently around the object, pressing it softly against the smooth underside of the trunk in a fluid, curling embrace. It is a motion of sweeping, gentle gathering, a slow folding inward that treats every tiny object with the utmost, enveloping care. You can allow your own body to sink into that same curling, enveloping embrace of the mattress beneath you. The body grows heavier, the breath naturally settles into a deeper, slower rhythm, and your mind can simply drift, entirely free from the need to grasp or hold on to anything. In quiet moments of deep rest, when the herd is safely shaded beneath the sprawling canopy of an ancient tree, that single-fingered sweeping trunk occasionally engages in a behavior that is surprisingly, deeply relatable. While the adults stand in their light, swaying slumber, an elephant will sometimes casually pick up a small, smooth stick from the ground. Without any sense of urgency, and completely devoid of any practical purpose like foraging or digging, they will use the stick to slowly, randomly draw winding lines, sweeping arcs, and soft circles in the loose, powdery dust at their feet. They are, in essence, quietly doodling in the dirt. It is a beautiful, deeply endearing expression of a relaxed, wandering mind enjoying the simple, tactile pleasure of tracing meaningless shapes into the earth. There is no destination in these dusty lines, no intended masterpiece, only the quiet, meditative joy of slow, purposeless movement. It serves as a gentle reminder that even the most massive, brilliant minds need moments of complete, unburdened play, allowing their attention to simply wander gracefully across the quiet surface of the present moment. This image of the solitary, resting elephant quietly tracing circles in the dust brings us to a beautiful truth about the males of the species, often misunderstood by the wide world. There is a deeply entrenched myth that once an adult male elephant, a massive towering bull, leaves the matriarch's herd, he becomes a permanently solitary, aggressive wanderer, banished to a lonely existence on the plains. The reality of their social lives is far more gentle and profoundly structured. These immense males frequently seek each other out, joining together to form quiet, deeply bonded groups known as bachelor herds. Within these all-male societies, there exists a beautiful, unspoken system of deep mentorship. The oldest, most massive bulls, those carrying the weight of 50 or 60 years of survival, act as vital, stabilizing anchors for the younger, more energetic and uncertain males. The seasoned elders patiently teach the young bulls the quiet rules of the landscape, modelling how to forage peacefully, how to modulate their immense strength, and showing them how to navigate the sprawling world with a calm, unhurried restraint. It is a brotherhood built on quiet guidance, proving that deep connection and gentle teaching remain central to their lives, even long after they have left the mothers who raised them. As this towering bachelor herd rests quietly together in the deep brush, their collective awareness is never truly switched off. It is simply tuned to a softer, more sweeping frequency. Their massive ears, though resting heavily against their wide shoulders, remain highly active, vigilant sentinels. An elephant possesses the remarkable ability to move its heavy ears completely independently of one another. Much like highly sophisticated organic radar dishes, a resting bull can slowly, silently swivel his left ear completely forward to catch the faint rustle of a distant shifting wind, while simultaneously angling his right ear entirely backward to monitor the slow, rhythmic breathing of a companion resting behind him. This independent, sweeping mobility allows them to effortlessly construct and maintain a continuous, invisible, 360-degree acoustic map of their surrounding world. They can see the entire landscape through the soft vibrations of the air without ever needing to lift their heavy heads or open their sleepy amber eyes. You can adopt this same effortless awareness now, letting go of the need to focus sharply on any single thought, and instead allowing your mind to softly, gently scan the quiet edges of sleep, completely secure in your surroundings. The profound, undisturbed peace of the resting herd is a perfect reflection of a deep, cellular harmony that exists at the very microscopic core of their being. A creature possessing the overwhelming 6-ton mass of an elephant is composed of trillions of constantly dividing cells, meaning they should logically face a significantly high risk of cellular mutation and disease over their long 70-year lifespan. Yet, elephants are blessed with an astonishing microscopic shield, an evolutionary masterpiece of cellular protection. Hidden deep within the complex architecture of their DNA are 20 distinct highly active copies of a specific powerful gene known as TP53. In the human body, we rely on only one single copy of this crucial tumor-suppressing gene to keep our cells healthy. But in the elephant, this vast, silent battalion of genetic guardians constantly, tirelessly patrols their entire internal universe. The moment a single cell shows the slightest sign of stress or mutation, these guardians instantly and quietly repair it, or gently remove it before it can cause any disruption. It is a state of absolute microscopic peace, a perfect internal balance that ensures the giant remains healthy, whole, and deeply harmonious from the very smallest building blocks of its life to the massive sweeping curve of its tusks. That internal cellular perfection beautifully constructs the magnificent complex landscape of their outer skin, a rugged topography that actively defies the very laws of physics to keep them cool. We have marvelled at how the deep, intersecting wrinkles of their grey hide trap precious mud and moisture, but the physical mechanism behind this is a tiny, gravity-defying miracle. The deep microscopic crevices woven into an elephant's skin are so perfectly spaced and precisely shaped that they utilize the powerful physics of capillary action. When an elephant uses its trunk to splash a small amount of cool water onto its broad back, the liquid does not simply pool or run straight down their sides. Instead, the immense microscopic surface tension within the intricate web of wrinkles actively pulls the water outward and upward, spreading the moisture evenly across the skin, entirely against the heavy downward force of gravity. Their skin acts as a massive living sponge that naturally draws the water across every dry inch, ensuring that not a single precious drop is ever wasted. It is a self-watering, deeply efficient mechanism, a brilliant adaptation that allows the giant to pull exactly what it needs from the environment and spread it completely over itself, finding total relief in the harshest, driest environments. The water that cools their heavily wrinkled skin eventually drips back down, returning quietly to the deep earth, an earth they honour in the most profound, solemn and unexpected ways. We know that elephants mourn the loss of their own family members, standing in quiet, weeping vigils over the sun-bleached bones of their ancestors, but their immense, welling capacity for empathy sometimes softly extends across the boundaries of species, reaching out to entirely different inhabitants of the wild. There are highly documented, awe-inspiring accounts of wild elephants finding the fallen bodies of other creatures, perhaps a resting antelope that has passed, or even a sleeping human in the deep brush, and reacting with a quiet, protective, and deeply moving reverence. They do not walk past. Instead, they will use their sensitive trunks to gently gather dry leaves, soft grasses, and small fallen branches, slowly and deliberately placing them over the body, essentially covering them in a makeshift earthen blanket. It is a profound instinctual act of covering, a gentle tucking in of a life that has passed. It shows a mind that recognizes the deep, quiet dignity of rest, returning the fallen softly and respectfully to the dark, holding earth. There is nothing you need to hold on to anymore. The world is taking care of itself. The heavy branches are placed, the earth is still, and you can simply allow the quiet weight of the night to cover you, safe and unseen in the peaceful dark. As the long night finally deepens to its absolute darkest point, and the cooling earth is safely blanketed by a canopy of bright silent stars, the entire herd surrenders completely to the deepest phase of their rest. They lie down flat upon the soft, forgiving soil, entirely relaxed, their massive limbs sprawling heavily against the ground. From this sprawling, sleeping family, a new, incredibly comforting sound begins to rise and fill the still night air. Elephants are prodigious, highly resonant snorers. Because of the vast, hollow, cavernous spaces hidden within their large skulls, and the long, muscular, empty length of their heavy trunks, their snores do not sound harsh or abrasive. Instead, the sound echoes through the brush like the deep, rhythmic soaring of heavy, ancient wood, or the slow, rhythmic, distant rolling of thunder trapped beneath the horizon. It is a deeply peaceful, immensely grounding vibration. To hear the synchronized, heavy snoring of an entire family of giants is to hear the ultimate acoustic signature of total surrender, a sound that vibrates through the very dirt, signaling to the entire sprawling landscape that the giants are completely at rest and that the world is perfectly, undeniably safe. As the deep rhythmic snoring of the resting herd vibrates softly through the cool, starlit earth, we arrive at the final, quiet truth of their magnificent existence. It is a truth not about how they move through the vast world, but about how they eventually peacefully leave it. When an ancient elephant carrying the immense weight of 70 years of memory finally reaches the end of its long, slow march, it engages in one last breathtaking act of creation. The departure of a giant from the waking world is never an end. It is a profound biological beginning. Over a lifetime of continuous sweeping grazing, the elephant has gathered tons of vital, life-sustaining nutrients from every corner of the continent: calcium from the deep caves, phosphorus from the dry riverbeds, and rich minerals from the heavy clay. When they finally lay their massive head upon the earth for the last time, they return this unimaginable wealth directly to the soil. In the exact quiet spot where an elder takes its final rest, the ground becomes so profoundly enriched that it completely alters the chemistry of the landscape itself. Within a few short seasons, fueled by the legacy of the giant, a sudden lush oasis of deep green vegetation springs up from the dry dust. A permanent thriving grove of acacia trees or a dense protective thicket of sweet grasses takes root precisely where the elephant fell. The wise matriarch or the wandering bull does not simply disappear, they literally transform into a living, breathing forest. They become the very shade that will eventually cool their children, and the very nourishment that will sustain the descendants of the herd they once led across the plains. It is the ultimate selfless act of ecological immortality, a beautiful, unbreakable promise written into the soil that nothing in this vast, ancient world is ever truly lost. It is only gently, perfectly transformed. This quiet masterpiece of their existence means that the sweeping landscapes of the savannah are not merely places where elephants live. The landscapes are physically made of elephants. The earth holds them, remembers them, and blooms endlessly from their legacy. And now, as the image of that blooming eternal forest settles softly into your own mind, our long journey alongside the sleeping herd comes to its natural, peaceful close. The night has deepened entirely. The air is cool, still, and perfectly calm. The great grey guardians of the wild are all resting heavily upon the earth, their massive breathings synchronized with the slow, turning wheel of the stars above. They have carried us across vast, dusty plains, through dense emerald jungles, and down into the quiet, echoing dark of ancient caves. They have shared their hidden strength, their profound empathy, and their unhurried ancient wisdom. But you do not need to carry any of it with you into the dark. You can let it all go now. You do not need to remember the intricate diamond patterns hidden within the ivory. You do not need to hold on to the low vibrating frequencies of their secret songs, or the microscopic textures of their heavy skin. Let all the numbers, all the facts, and all the details gently dissolve. Let them drift away like fine, pale dust slipping from a heavy shoulder, scattering silently into the night breeze. Your only task now is to mirror their profound, heavy rest. Feel the immense, comforting gravity of the earth pulling you softly downward. Notice how your own body, much like the giant resting in the tall grass, is completely, unconditionally supported by the surface beneath you. There is no need to hold yourself up. There is no need to guard the perimeter of your thoughts. The perimeter is safe. The world is quiet. Allow your breath to slow, finding that same deep, oceanic rhythm that sustains the sleepers in the wild, in and out, slow and steady. The mind can finally stop walking. The long migration of the day is over. Every muscle can soften. Every lingering thought can simply fade into the comfortable, welcoming shadows. The savannah is entirely still. The night is holding you. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.